you guys? How are you all? Thank you guys for being here. We are going to get right into it. Court just started a couple minutes ago. I was actually kind of watching to see where, just for a couple minutes before we started, to kind of see what direction we were going in. I did catch up with yesterday's court. I watched it last night. And when there's breaks, we might click over to that and try to catch up with what we missed, because there are two witnesses that I think are really important from yesterday. One from the sheriff's office, and Christian Sykes, who was a friend of Devin's, a friend of Isaiah's, who Isaiah allegedly confessed to. So I really think those are important to listen to, but we're going to start here. I'm not going to talk a lot. I'm going to let it play. Of course, I'll pause and give commentary as we go, but while we're listening, I'm going to be doing, my housework and all the different things around here. So I'll be in the chat with you guys, and we're just going to do it. So thank you guys for being here. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Nee. Hey, Kelly. Hey, Harley girl. We're going to get right into it. Here we go. Oh, wait. Also, if you haven't seen the video I posted on my community tab that Chasing did on this case, please go check it out. It was a great video, and I'm really happy after yesterday and how upset I was. Like, just to see more people talking about it makes me really happy. So I think you guys should go check out that video. Hey, Tess. Morning, Ellie. So happy you found a stream to watch. I'm finishing up some home stuff, so I'll not be in chat right away, but soon. Thankful we are here for these kids. Me too, Tess. And look, if we can't find a YouTube video, we'll go to that site and stream straight from the website. But it seems like today they've started from the beginning, so we're safe to pick up from here. And I have a link for what we missed from yesterday. I cannot wait for y'all to hear from his friend. Now, the person from the sheriff's office, when he reveals the Snapchat messages between Lyric and Devin, and then in between, especially in between Devin and Isaiah, those are hard to listen to. When they're talking about what they're going to do that night and everything. And you just have to remember these are young kids, so their language might be different. And just because they might like to, we'll get there, and I'll give my opinion on it, but it's kind of tough stuff. So anyway, here we go. We're going to listen to our first witness of the day. Thank you guys for being here. Let's go. Let's get started. Let me speed it up just until we get caught up, because I do want to be caught up right with them, so that on the breaks we can watch Christian Sykes' testimony, which is over an hour, and then the sheriff's testimony. I don't remember his name, but I have it in my notes on my phone, because his is also pretty long, probably over an hour. His name is Keith Goodwin. So,
spell your name for the court reporter.
My name is Evie Nguyen. First name is Evie. Last name is Nguyen.
And where do you work?
I'm a forensic scientist at the North Carolina State Crime Laboratory in the Trace Evidence section.
How long have you been there?
Coming up on 6 years.
And what are your job duties in the Trace Evidence section?
I'm responsible for the examination, the interpretation, the report writing, and then the occasional testimony of trace evidence materials. Right now, I'm trained in hair analysis and in primer gunshot residue analysis.
And can you explain for the jury what a forensic hair examiner does?
Sure. So for hair analysis, typically I'm receiving items of evidence involved in criminal investigations and processing them to remove any hairs that may be present. Examples of items I may receive include sexual assault kits, so the underpants or the pubic hair combings within those sexual assault kits.
Hey, proud grandma, and just one more pause so you guys can kind of get a better idea of what we're going to hear about. They're talking about that Issaih kit that was done, and that 2024, the stuff that just happened last year. or, almost last year plus a month because it's 2026, but you know what I mean. Okay.
I will process. Other examples could be taping items
closed
from various
caption,
items
really
at a
can't.
crime scene. If you think of a taping item similar to using a lint roller to remove hair from your clothing, we use fingerprint tape and just pat the surface of an item. It could be clothing, it could be bedding, it could be a vehicle interior. So multiple items that I may process for hair. Typically, a hair analysis is either a microscopic hair comparison between questioned hairs from the evidence and known standards collected from individuals, or a screen for DNA examination.
And what is your general educational and work background?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Polymer and Color Chemistry from North Carolina State University, as well as a minor in Forensic Science. And I also have a Master's of Science in Forensic and Investigative Science from West Virginia University. Throughout my studies, I interned at both the Trace Evidence section of the North Carolina State Crime Laboratory, as well as in the chemistry unit
West
of the
Virginia
FBI laboratory.
and North
And then
Carolina.
upon finishing my master's degree, I was hired into my current position within the Trace Evidence section.
And what specialized training do you have in hair examination?
When I was first hired into this position, I went through an approximate year-long internal training program for hair analysis that included history of hair analysis, current methodology that we use, written and practical examinations, shadowing casework, performing mock casework, and then it all resolved in a mock courtroom experience to be released into hair analysis. From then on, I've had the opportunity to participate in continuing education credits as they come available. So I've had a few hair-related workshops at regional forensic conferences. And then I've also been able to attend a microscopy course at the McCrone Research Institute in Chicago.
And approximately how many hair case records have you worked since being released to casework?
I was released in 2021, and since then it's been over 350 hair case records.
And do you have a CV that describes your educational and professional experience?
I do.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Nguyen, I will show you what I've marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 146 and ask you if you recognize that.
I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 146?
This was my CV at the time that I completed the analysis in this case. I do have a more current CV, but this was accurate as of that time.
And what's the date on there?
September 8th, 2025.
And is it a complete and accurate copy of your CV as of September 8th, 2025?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, this time I would move State's 146 to evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, States 146 will be admitted.
And Your Honor, at this time I would tender Ms. Nguyen as an expert in forensic hair analysis.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Then the witness will be tendered as an expert in forensic hair analysis.
Ms. Nguyen, can you explain for the jury how a hair analysis is conducted in your laboratory?
Sure. So in our laboratory, we have two main routes that a hair analysis will generally take, and I mentioned them previously. So a microscopic hair comparison or a screen for DNA examination. So how analysis normally starts is I receive an item of evidence, process it to see if there are hairs present. If there are, I will determine if they are human or animal. And then if there are human hairs present, I'll proceed with either the comparison or the screen for DNA examination. So I believe I did both in this case, so I'll explain both of those. For the microscopic hair comparison, I have the questioned human hairs from the evidence items, and then head hair or pubic hair standards were able to be collected from the individuals involved in the case for me to compare those questioned hairs to. We will only do comparisons on either head or pubic hairs because those are the regions of your body that have the most distinguishing characteristics for us to be able to compare them to a standard. So how that normally goes is I have two different levels of characteristics that I'll look at with these hairs. I start with things I can just observe with my eyes. Those are called macroscopic characteristics. So those can be things like color, general shape. So is it straight, wavy, curly, general length and thickness. And then I'll move on to microscopic characteristics. So at that point, I will need to use a microscope. And for a hair comparison, I use a comparison microscope. And that is basically two regular microscopes that are attached with one eyepiece. So I can see two samples at the same time under the same lighting conditions. So examples of microscopic characteristics that I'll look at, you can think of a hair under a microscope like a wooden yellow number 2 pencil. So starting with that outer yellow paint layer, there is a cuticle layer to your hair. That's the outer layer. It's made up of scales. So I will look at that region to see if it is clear, if there is some color to it, if it is damaged, the scale pattern in that area. Then I'll move on to the wood grain of the pencil. You can think of that as the cortex region of the hair. That is where pigment particles are held. So I will look at the general size and shape and pattern of those particles, their color as well. You can then move on to the central core of the hair. That's called the medulla. You can think of that like the lead running through the center of a pencil. So the medulla may either be present or absent. And if it is present, it can have several different patterns. It can be a solid line. It can be dashed kind of like a passing lane on the road, or it can have an inconsistent pattern. So there's several things I can look at under the microscope to see, do the characteristics that I'm seeing within this questioned hair fall within the range of the several hairs that I'm looking at in the standard collected from an individual. And the conclusions that will result from that sort of analysis is microscopically consistent with. So this questioned hair falls within the range of the hairs in the standard. Inconclusive, maybe there's some similarities, but also some differences, or the hair is limited in some nature that I can't do a full comparison, or microscopically different. So the characteristics in this questioned hair do not fall within the range of what I'm seeing in the known standard. So that's hair comparison. And then the other half of what we can do with hair analysis is a screen for DNA examination. So we would do this if the individuals involved are unknown, or if for some reason we don't have hair standards available from everyone in the case. So that is simply looking at human hairs that we have in evidence items to see if they have a root attached. And if they do have a root, does it have enough tissue present that it may be suitable for DNA analysis at our laboratory? And if so, I cut the root off that hair, put it in a tube, package it, and send it to our biology section for them to perform a DNA analysis on that hair. So that's hair analysis in a nutshell.
And is this methodology generally accepted and standard within your field?
Yes, it is.
And did you perform a hair analysis in this case?
Yes.
Did you use the methodology you just described to perform that analysis?
Yes, I did.
And did you prepare written reports summarizing your finding and conclusions in this case?
Yes, I believe I had 2 reports.
And as with the previous witness, I have included the full copy of both reports as States Exhibit 147 on a disc, and I have the summary pages marked as 147A is in alpha and 147B is in Bravo.
Any objection?
I have no objection. I don't know if she said she was admitting them or asking them to be admitted, but there's no objection once she makes that in the fact that they are being differentiated between 147, 147A, and 147B.
I guess maybe I should let you introduce those through the witness first.
Sure. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'll show you what I've marked as exhibits 147A and 147B and ask you if you recognize these 2 items.
Yes, I do.
And what's contained in States 147A?
These are my 2 lab reports from the 2 examinations I did in this case.
And are those the complete lab reports?
So depending on the terminology, we refer to the lab report as the full case report that's released by our system when we release a case record. So that includes not just the results, but also any communication, the chain of custody, all of the documentation involved in this case. These documents are laboratory report summaries. So these are just my results in the case, not all of the documentation.
And do those appear to be complete and accurate copies of your summary reports?
They do.
Here, this time I would move States 147A and B into evidence.
And I apologize if I'm not getting it. What's the difference between states 147A and 147B?
I did 2 different exams in this case, so they're 2 different dated lab reports. So one analysis and then another report of another analysis.
Give me the dates on them at least, so
Yes.
we can have something separating them.
Okay. The first is June 24th, 2024. Yes, this is 147A. And then 147B is July 29th, 2024.
Thank you. Still no objection?
No objection, Judge. Thank you.
We'll admit states 147, which is the full report, states 147A, which is the summary report dated June 24th, 2024, 147B, which is the summary report from July 29th, 2024.
Thank you, Your Honor. And may I reapproach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Nguyen, I'll show you States Exhibits 116 and 117, which have previously been admitted into evidence in this matter. Ask you if you recognize those items.
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize them?
I recognize these items by our laboratory barcode, which contains our unique lab case number, our unique lab item numbers for each item, as well as my initials and date on the barcode of when I received these items into my custody.
And did you analyze pieces of what's contained in states 116 and 117 as a part of your examination in this case?
Yes.
And Madam I apologize. What is states 116 and 117?
116 is Devin Clark's sexual assault kit, and 117 is Lyric Woods' sexual assault kit.
Thank you.
And well, we'll start there. Can you please describe for the jury your examination pertaining to your lab report dated June 24th, 2024?
Sure. So at this time, the evidence that I had received was the 2 sexual assault kits. I did not have, so within the sexual assault kits, the associated head hair standards and pubic hair standards for those individuals are inside. But at the time of starting the exam, I did not have a head hair standard from Isaiah Ross. So I wasn't able to do the full comparison at that time. So I moved forward with a limited examination. It was a screen for DNA examination, but with an additional criteria. So previously I mentioned that we will do comparisons on either head hairs or pubic hairs. It also depends on the timeline between when an incident occurred and when these standards were collected. Since your hair is a biological material that's consistently changing throughout your life, there is a growth cycle associated with when these hairs replace themselves. So we have a cutoff of when we will accept a standard if it's been a certain amount of time from when the crime occurred, because the hairs could potentially be different than when the crime occurred. So for pubic hairs, we have a cutoff of 1 year for a standard to be collected. For head hairs, our cutoff is 5 years. So this incident occurred in 2022, and I was performing this analysis in 2024. So we were past the cutoff for pubic hairs to be suitable for a comparison at our laboratory. So the second paragraph of my results, I'm explaining this approach, and I'm saying that I have been in conversation with the Orange County Sheriff's Office in regards to obtaining a suspect head hair standard. So any macroscopic head hairs that I'm seeing in the evidence, I'll hold off on at this time to do an additional analysis at the time I have that standard. But at this time, since macroscopic pubic or body hairs are not suitable for comparison, I'm screening those hairs for DNA at this time. So that's this first report.
And can you describe your examination with regard to lab item 10-5, the underwear taping from Miss Woods's sexual assault kit?
Item 10-5-1?
Yes.
Yes.
Excuse me.
So at this point, I'm moving forward with a screen for DNA exam on any macroscopic pubic or body hairs only. So for item 10-5-1, my results were as follows. Examination of item 10-5-1 revealed several human hairs. Some of these human hairs exhibited macroscopic head hair characteristics. Pending the submission of the suspect's head hair standard, no further analysis was performed on these hairs at this time. None of the remaining human hairs were suitable for DNA analysis at this laboratory. Animal hair was also present. No further analysis was performed on this item at this time.
And can you describe what you observed and your conclusions with regard to lab item 11-4-1, the taping from the underwear in Devin Clark's sexual assault kit?
Examination of item 11-4-1 revealed several human hairs. Some of these human hairs exhibited macroscopic head hair characteristics. Pending the submission of the suspect's head hair standard, no further analysis was performed on these hairs at this time. 2 of the human hairs had roots that may be suitable for DNA analysis at this laboratory. Due to its small size, one of the human hairs was assigned item 11-4-1-1 and prepared in its entirety for DNA analysis. The root of the other human hair was removed, assigned item 11-4-1-2, and submitted for DNA analysis. The remaining human hairs were not suitable for DNA analysis at this laboratory. Animal hair was also present. No further analysis was performed on this item at this time.
And how about for item 11-8, the pubic hair combings from Devin Clark's sexual assault kit?
Examination of item 11-8 revealed numerous human hairs, none of which exhibited macroscopic head hair characteristics. 53 of these human hairs had roots that may be suitable for DNA analysis at this laboratory. The roots of these hairs were removed, assigned items 11-8-1 through 11-8-53, and submitted for DNA analysis. The remaining human hairs were not suitable for DNA analysis at this laboratory. No further analysis was performed on this item.
And with regard to this lab report, did you examine any other items?
There was one more, item 10-9. That was the pubic hair combings from the sexual assault kit collected from Lyric Woods.
And what was the result of that examination?
Examination of item 10-9 did not reveal the presence of any hairs. No further analysis was performed on this item.
Thank you. And so then at some point, did you receive a head hair standard so that you could further your comparison?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
I may.
I'll show you what's previously been marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 141 and ask you to recognize this item.
I do.
And what's State's Exhibit 141?
State's Exhibit 141 is the head hair sample collected from Isaiah Ross.
And is that the same one that you analyzed in connection with this case?
Yes.
How can you tell that?
I can tell by our laboratory's unique barcode that has our unique case number. It has our laboratory's unique item number. And I can also tell by my date and initials on the label at the time I received the evidence.
I just want to say one quick thing. I do have to give commentary every now and then. I really just want to focus on the trial and us to get to listen to what they're saying. But I find it so interesting. They're focusing so much on this essay kit, these hairs. This has came up over and over and over again since actually the opening, when yesterday the testimony revealed that they were meeting up to have consensual sex, all of them. Now, I don't believe like in a threesome like that, but you'll hear when you'll hear when we get to the text messages that seem to be like the plan from the beginning for all of them. So why such a focus? Because this is a gun crime. These kids were shot running away in the back multiple times and then up close a couple times as well. Why the focus on what are they getting to and what are they getting at? What is their story here? You know?
And so once you received that standard, did you generate an additional report dated July 29th, 2024?
Yes, I did.
And can you walk us through your findings with regard to that report?
Okay. So at this time, I had all necessary head hair standards so I could proceed with the full microscopic hair comparison. I again have another paragraph in my results that's explaining this approach. I explained that I've previously analyzed the items in this case. So I had the 2 sexual assault kits once again, and I also had that head hair standard item. So I've previously examined the macroscopic pubic hairs and body hairs in these items. Those were the ones that I screened for DNA in the previous report. So at this time, I'm not doing any further analysis on those hairs. At this time, I'm only doing a microscopic hair comparison with any macroscopic head hairs I'm seeing in the items. And I'm comparing these head hairs to the submitted head hair standards from Lyric Woods, Devin Clark, and Isaiah Ross.
And can you, excuse me, thank you. Did you re-examine item 10-5-1? The underwear taping from Ms. Woods' sexual assault kit?
Yes.
And can you describe your findings with regard to that item?
Examination of item 10-5-1 revealed the presence of 3 human hairs with macroscopic head hair characteristics. None of these hairs were macroscopically similar to the submitted head hair standards from Devin Clark or Isaiah Ross. These hairs were not suitable for DNA analysis at the North Carolina State Crime Laboratory. They may be suitable for alternative DNA testing not offered by this laboratory. No further analysis was performed on this item.
And did you do further examination on item 11-4-1, the underwear taping from Mr. Clark's sexual assault kit?
Yes.
And what did that examination reveal?
Examination of item 11-4-1 revealed the presence of 2 human hairs with macroscopic head hair characteristics. One of these hairs was bland. Bland hairs lack many of the characteristics used in performing a hair comparison. Accordingly, no conclusion could be reached as to whether or not this hair could have originated from the same source as item 10-8, which was the head hair standard from Lyric Woods, or item 15, which was the head hair standard from Isaiah Ross. It should be noted that this type of bland hair was present in the submitted head hair standard from Lyric Woods, item 10-8. but not in the submitted head hair standards from Isaiah Ross, which was item 15, or Devin Clark, which was item 11-6. This hair is not suitable for DNA analysis at the North Carolina State Crime Laboratory. Therefore, it is recommended it be outsourced for alternative DNA testing not offered by this laboratory. The remaining hair was found to be microscopically different from the hair in items 10-8, 11-6, and 15. Microscopically different means distinct characteristics exhibited by the unknown hair were not noted within the range of characteristics present in the submitted known standards. Therefore, this hair in item 11-4-1 could not be associated with the submitted head hair standards from Lyric Woods, Devin Clark, or Isaiah Ross. This hair is not suitable for DNA analysis at the North Carolina State Crime Laboratory. It may be suitable for alternative DNA testing not offered by this laboratory. No further analysis was performed on this item.
And did you examine any other items with regard to your second report dated July 29th, 24?
No.
What did you do with all of this evidence after you examined it?
Following the first or the second report?
Both.
So following the first report, I had created several root items that were to be sent down to our forensic biology section. So when we create several root items like that, we'll put them in a container. So that is listed in the report header as container C.
I want to hear about these roots because so far it's all inconclusive. So why in the hell have we spent so much time on these essay kits and the hairs if it was all inconclusive? So the last part is the roots off of these hairs.
C1. So that container
Like,
C1 item
I don't
had
know.
all of the root items created by me, along with extracts E1 and slides S1, which are items generated by forensic biology during their analysis. So those 3 items I transferred to the DNA section for their testing. And then the remaining items were those 2 sexual assault kits and all of the sub items contained within them. I retained those for my further analysis I was going to perform. So then following that second analysis, I only had the 2 sexual assault kits as well as the head hair standard from Isaiah Ross. And following that second analysis, I was done with everything. So I retained it for pickup, which means that I placed it back in our evidence vault for the agency to eventually come and pick up.
And did you do any further analyses regarding hair analysis in this case?
No.
Now, Ms. Wen, do you also work in the field of primer gunshot residue analysis?
I do.
And how long have you worked in that capacity?
I was released into primer gunshot residue analysis in March of 2025, so it's been a little under a year.
You previously described your general education, but what specific education, training, and experience do you have in the field of primer gunshot residue analysis?
So similar to hair analysis, I also went through an internal training program on primer gunshot residue analysis. Similarly, it contained information such as the history of the methods used to detect primer gunshot residue, the methods that we currently use now, technical information on how to operate the scanning electron microscope, which is the instrument that we use to detect primer gunshot residue in our laboratory. And it also contained information on our lab's policy on sample handling and submission guidelines, as well as casework and report writing. I shadowed casework with other GSR analysts, and I performed my own mock casework at the end to be released into primer gunshot residue analysis. And then similarly, I also keep up with continuing education for primer gunshot residue. So I've gone to a couple workshops regarding current methods in gunshot residue analysis at professional forensic conferences. And then I have also attended a scanning electron microscope user school at the instruments manufacturer in Warrendale, Pennsylvania.
And approximately how many case records have you worked in primer gunshot residue analysis?
Since March of 2025, I'd say over 30.
At this time, I would tender Ms. Wen as an expert in primer gunshot residue analysis.
Primer,
Primer
thank you. Primer gunshot
residue analysis.
All right. Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. This will be accepted and admitted as an expert in primary gunshot residue analysis.
Thank you. And can you describe for the jury what is gunshot residue?
Gunshot residue can be thought of as all of the vapors and particles that come out of a firearm at the time that it is discharged. Gunshot residue it mainly comes from the end of the barrel, but it can also escape through any available openings in the firearm, such as the ejection port. It can be made up of components from all around the weapon. It can be made up of components of the ammunition, So whether that's from the primer mix, from the propellant or the gunpowder, from the cartridge casing, or from the bullet, but it can also be made up of components from the weapon itself. So components from the gun barrel or any gun oils. So of all of those components, the portion that we're testing for at the North Carolina State Crime Lab is from the primer mix in the ammunition. These we call characteristic primer gunshot residue particles. They are rounded in shape, and they are composed of lead, barium, and antimony. They're from about 1 to 10 micrometers in size, sometimes smaller. If you think of a meter stick that's been broken into a million pieces, just one of those pieces would be a micrometer. So these particles are very small, which is why we have to use the scanning electron microscope to detect them.
And how does or how would gunshot residue get on a person's hand or clothing?
So when a firearm is fired, the first thing that happens is the firing pin will strike the base of the cartridge case of ammunition, and it will cause the primer mix to explode. That explosion then causes a rapid burning of the propellant or the gunpowder within that ammunition, and the rapid increase in temperature and pressure inside the weapon is what propels the bullet down the barrel towards the object that it strikes. But at the same time that those rapid increase in temperatures are occurring within the weapon, the melting and then the vaporization points of the lead, barium, and antimony within that primer mix are reached, causing them to become molten droplets that will combine into particles that contain all three of those components. When they are exposed to the atmosphere, when they're released from the weapon, they quickly solidify and they will settle like dust on surfaces within close proximity to the weapon when it was discharged. So whether that be the shooter's hands or their clothing, but we also know that gunshot residue can travel greater distances along with the bullet towards the object it strikes. So it can transfer that way as well.
And does the state crime lab have policies on the testing for gunshot residue?
We do.
And can you describe what the policy is regarding the testing of hand kits or clothing of a gunshot victim?
So we will not accept items of evidence from an individual who has been a gunshot wound victim. And that is because if someone has received a gunshot wound, we already know that they were in the environment of primer gunshot residue. We also know that primer gunshot residue can settle on surfaces within close proximity to the weapon when it's discharged, as well as traveling greater distances with that bullet, potentially transferring onto the object it strikes. So since we know they were in that environment, I could not establish a timeline as to whether any gunshot residue detected on that individual was from firing a weapon or from receiving a gunshot wound. So that's why we don't accept those items.
Hey, Pixie.
All right, that's all the questions I have for this witness. Thank you.
What? Why did we do all that? Why did we do all that? Why? Why are you wasting everyone's time? I'm sorry, but that was just, what the hell? Come on, man. We had to hear about all this DNA shit that none of it was ever conclusive, or all of this hair stuff, rather. I don't think we ever heard about the DNA results from those few hairs that they could get DNA from. And then we have to hear about all this gunshot residue when we know for a fact Isaiah was arrested days later. Gunshot residue only lasts on the skin 4 hours, about 4 hours, right? And of course, Lyric and Devin have gunshot residue on them. She was burnt. She has burns on her face because it was such a close, like very up close shots at the end. Seems like they were kind of shot in the back at first. I don't know. I guess we'll hear more, but just from what we've heard so far about their injuries, we know that they have several shots each to the back and then some up close shots to the head and neck. So they already, we know they have gunshot residue on them. They didn't even test them. Isaiah, there's no possible way to know with him. So what was the point of this witness even, you know? I mean, I guess because she does the part, unless that there's DNA that's going to be referenced that was part of her exam, that could be the, in my opinion, the only reason why. And I guess they wanted to give a thorough, you know, talk about everything she did in the investigation. But come on, man.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Listen. Oh, God, here we go. Let me just listen to old Jonathan Trapp. I know he's going to get me all pissed off.
Good morning.
So you started out talking to us about hair analysis.
Here we go.
Kind of the protocol that you take in testing this hair analysis. And
No, she's a
we're
witness
trying
for
to
the
distill it
state,
as much as I
Coffee.
can.
The defense will put
But
on their
you will
case
receive,
after the state rest.
Evidence from a law enforcement agency, whether it's tapings or full hairs or head hairs. and then you'll have some type of other item to compare it to see if they are similar. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And in this case, there were at least 3 standards that were being compared. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, 3 head hair standards.
And then in addition to these standards, there are items of evidence that were found on the scene or found somewhere that these standards were being compared to see if they were matches. Is that an accurate assessment?
I wouldn't say matches. I would say microscopically consistent with or microscopically different with the standard that was collected. But yes, comparing.
So you were trying to look through a microscope to see if these standards were microscopically consistent with the items that were taken from, I think you said, from underwear, from other locations. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you were doing these comparisons, we'll first start with item 1051, which was the underpants from Lyric Woods. There were hairs that were found there, correct? Or taken from there.
Yes.
All right. And those hairs were then compared to Devin Clark and Isaiah Ross. Is that correct?
Yes.
And neither hairs were microscopically consistent, talking about Devin Clark and Isaiah Ross with what was found in the taping from 1051, which is Lyric Woods underpants.
They were actually not macroscopically similar. So even at the level that I was just using my eyes and not the microscope, they were not similar. So I stopped at that point, but yes.
And then when you did the testing of 11.4 or maybe 11.41, which is the taping from Devin Clark's underpants, when you then did the comparisons, those also were not microscopically consistent. Is that correct?
Let me just pause for a quick second and tell you, wait until you all hear the investigator we missed yesterday on the break. We're going to play him first, and then we'll play the confession because that's the order in which they testified yesterday. But Devin, his pants, you remember how we had heard that they were kind of low? I thought maybe they were just like below his boxers a little bit, like you'll see people do, but his pants were actually like all the way below the bottom of his boxers. And there was a gunshot wound to his thigh. And I don't know, just thinking about I'm keeping that in mind while listening to all of this, trying to understand what they're getting at.
They were not microscopically consistent. No, I had different conclusion types for each of those hairs.
Okay. But just starting there, they weren't microscopically consistent. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
All right. You then said after you did kind of your macroscopic analysis and your microscopic analysis, you would then get roots and maybe longer hairs to send out for DNA analysis. Is that correct?
So I did the analysis of the roots, the screen for DNA examination before I did the comparison.
Okay.
Part of my comparison analysis is looking at those hairs to see if they do have suitable roots, but I believe during the comparison analysis, none of the hairs had suitable roots. So I did not prepare roots at that point. I had in the previous report.
And that analysis is done by a different department or a different representative at the crime lab in reference to DNA.
Yes, a different section does the DNA.
And based on what you're testifying to, your analysis didn't show any results of microscopic consistency, which would have shown any of different hairs were found on different individuals. Is that a fair assessment?
So I did not have any microscopic consistent results. No, the only result I had that was not a difference was with that bland hair in item 11-4-1, but with that bland conclusion, it's an inconclusive conclusion. So I cannot say either way.
Okay. And you did not do any testing of gunshot residue in this case. Is that correct?
No, I did not.
And you were speaking with the prosecutor about protocols and policies at the crime lab.
Yes.
And one of the things you mentioned was that the crime lab does not test for gunshot residue on victims. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And you mentioned that's because
If you are newer to this attorney, he loves to just ask the same questions that have already been asked without really adding anything new or changing anything, just to double check and make sure he heard it correctly.
the projectile could carry gunshot residue with it, and because they were involved in some type of firearm injury.
We already know that they were in the environment where primary gunshot residue was expelled. So whether that was by being in close proximity or by it traveling along with the bullet.
And does that protocol, is that a bright line rule? Or are there exceptions to that rule?
There are circumstances where we will deviate from that procedure with management approval, but at first pass, we do not test victim kits.
All right. And to be clear, there wasn't even a request made for this to happen on either of these individuals. Is that correct?
Not that I'm aware of. We don't have a gunshot residue case record in this case.
And so if a individual, we'll start big and work small. Let's say an individual wasn't shot, they were stabbed. You could test for gunshot residue in that situation, couldn't you?
I could. We do have a couple other reasons that we wouldn't test a gunshot residue kit.
Okay.
So there's three. So one of them being if they were a victim of a gunshot wound. The second being if the kit was collected greater than 4 hours from the time that the incident occurred. Gunshot residue is easily lost with normal activity, such as rubbing hands together, putting hands in pockets. So we have a 4-hour cutoff for those kits. And then the third would be if the individual had washed their hands. Washing hands removes gunshot residue. So we would not work that kit either. But it's one of 3 reasons.
But in the event that the individuals did not move, did not wash their hands, remained in the same location, you would still have to get prior approval in order to perform a gunshot residue test for a victim. Is that correct?
Yes, we'd have to deviate from our typical procedure.
Thank you. No further questions, Judge.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. May we excuse our witness, Ms. Nguyen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Okay, let me
Thank
take
you,
my
sir.
little banner down.
There's been obligations.
Who's going to be next, y'all? Who is going to be next? I'm nervous. Thank you guys for being here, by the way.
This thing we'll call Wendell Ivory.
Wendell Avery. Sorry about my little thing in my live yesterday. I just, I'm just. I don't know. I just care about like this case in particular, and there's a ton of cases, not just this one. There are so many that never get really any media attention and struggle to make it onto their local news. And I don't know. It's just, this is one that I've personally that just hits me harder than, others that I might know about. And when I just see that they won't even stream it in full, half of these local news places, it was just really freaking upsetting. But not because I was crying, but it wasn't like out of sadness or for me. It was anger. It was fucking anger and frustration. So anyway, but let's keep going. Let's see who this Wendell person is. Let me fix our banner. Wendell. Forget the last name, so we'll hear this in a moment. Why would you test for gunshot residue in a stabbing? Right, Pixie. I was thinking that too. But questions. Well, I just was a little,
Strap, you come up here, we'll get you sworn in, okay?
a little much. Sometimes I can be a little too much. This has my family.
Yes, I do.
Strap, when you
Ooh,
just
okay.
sit up there, make sure you're close enough to that mic, okay?
I sure will.
Thank you.
Oh, he's got a bunch of stuff with him. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you please state and spell your name for the court reporter?
My name is Wendell Ivory. Wendell, Wendell, Ivory, Ivory.
And where do you work?
I work at the North Carolina State Crime Lab.
In what section?
I work in the forensic biology section as a forensic scientist.
Okay, here we go. We're going to get some
And
of
how
these
long have you
results,
worked there?
maybe.
It's been about 15 years now.
What are your job duties there?
I examine items of evidence in criminal cases for the presence of body fluid.
So true,
and
Pixie.
semen. I will collect samples that
Okay,
sometimes
let me
take
mute.
from
We'll
skin
listen.
cells. So if it's a body fluid or skin cells, I try to develop DNA profiles from those samples. And I will also develop DNA profiles from individuals involved in the case to see if the profiles from the evidence. So I can see that if the profiles from the evidence, as well as the DNA profiles from any individuals involved in the case, may be same or similar or different.
And what type of education, training, and experience do you have that qualifies you as a forensic biologist?
I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in microbiology. I also have 2 master's degrees. One is in microbial biotechnology. The other is in business administration, concentrating in biosciences management. I have a certificate from my graduate school at NC State in molecular biotechnology, and I'm also certified in the area of molecular biology from the American Board of Criminalistics.
And have you testified as an expert witness in
Dang.
the field of forensic biology?
Yes, I have.
Approximately how many times?
It's been about 35-ish times now.
And do you have a
Wow.
CV that describes your educational and professional experience?
Yes, I do.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Pixie, even this one though didn't even get any breaking news really. It just, I don't get it.
You recognize this.
Okay, here you go.
Yes,
I do want to say just quickly, sometimes these witnesses, when it comes to the forensics and all that kind of stuff, sometimes it can be a little tough to follow or listen to, especially if you're kind of lost in that world. But hang in there with me, because the testimony from yesterday that I'm going to play during the break is very interesting and really ties everything together. It's hard because from the sheriff, some of these messages between these boys, like boys will be boys, and they're just it's going to be a little nerve-wracking, but it's interesting, especially with this Christian Sykes who Isaiah confessed to. And I can't wait for you guys to hear all about that. So we'll play that at the break. So even though this might be a little hard to get through, it's going to tie it all together and make it easier to comprehend and understand once we get to the others.
This State's Exhibit 148.
State's Exhibit 148 is a copy of my CV, which details my education as well as my professional experiences.
And is it a true and accurate copy of your CV?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, this time I would move States 148 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
States 148 will be admitted.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, I would tender Wendell Ivory as an expert in forensic biology.
Any objection?
No objection to that, Your Honor.
Mr. Ivory will be admitted as an expert in forensic biology.
Thank you. Mr. Ivory, what is DNA?
DNA is a chemical that's found in all living organisms. You receive half of it from your mom and half of it from your dad. It's often called the genetic blueprint because it provides all the instructions needed to build, operate, and maintain our bodies. The same DNA that's in your blood is also in your skin as well as your other tissues. I use it as a forensic scientist because it helps us to distinguish one person from another. And with the technology that I use, it has been shown that with the exception of identical twins, no 2 people have been shown to have the same DNA profile.
We just slide that microphone just a little bit closer to you. It'll
Sure.
move if you want to slide it.
To me.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody good?
And why does the North Carolina State Crime Lab conduct DNA analysis?
It's the best method that we have to distinguish one person from another using the technology of DNA.
And can you please explain for the jury the basic procedures that are used at the crime lab when conducting DNA testing?
So for this particular case, I performed body fluid analysis and DNA analysis. So I'll describe both of those. For the presumptive blood testing that I use a test called the Kastle-Meyer test. And this is just a test that can indicate that blood may be present on an item. It can't conclusively identify it as blood, but it's useful for screening purposes. So if I see a reddish brown stain, if it gives me an indication that blood is present by turning from clear to pink within 5 seconds, it's useful to understand that because that might be a suitable source for DNA analysis. So that's the presumptive blood test. For DNA analysis, it's a multi-step process, which starts with what we call extraction. And that's where you're going to take a sample and try to just crack open the cell and get the DNA out of it. For this case, I performed 2 different types of extraction. One was geared towards potential blood cells. The other was performed for the possible presence of semen, and that's called a differential extraction. So it's just basically taking one sample, and I'm going to make it into 2 samples. The first sample is called fraction 1, so you might hear that in my reporting. And this is just the sample that I'm trying to isolate the DNA that could presumably come from basically the body from the person that the sample was collected from. The second part is the fraction 2 sample. And so this is where, if it has semen present, this is where the sperm cell DNA would be isolated. So sperm has a tough outer coat. And so the normal extraction chemicals are not suitable to break down that coat to get the DNA out. So I have to perform a second extraction. So whether it's the normal extraction or the differential extraction, I've got DNA, but I don't know how much I have. So I have to perform a different step, and it's called quantitation. And I'm just measuring the quantity or the amount of DNA. And this is like if you go to the grocery store, you put your produce onto the scale and you weigh it. I can do the same thing with chemicals. And so I need to understand how much my DNA weighs, because the next part of the process is called PCR, which is polymerase chain reaction. You might have heard of that. Polymerase chain reaction. And this is where I'm going to basically just take small copies of DNA and multiply them millions and millions of times. And in the process, I'm also going to color code it. So DNA is invisible. I need to be able to see it in the end.
Oh my God, my head can hardly understand some of this. Hey, Jessica, I'm happy that you're here too. This is not your regular live. I'm not going to be talking all that much. We're kind of playing, not kind of, we are. I am playing the trial footage that's happening right now for Isaiah Ross, Isaiah Ross's trial. He is accused of killing Lyric Woods and Devin Clark. And yeah, we're just listening to some testimony right now that's about DNA and stuff. And we're about to get into this investigator's testimony. That's super, super interesting. So like I said earlier, I know this is kind of hard to follow, but not everyone today will be like this. And yeah, that's what we're doing. So thank you for being here. Hey, Hope's Echo. Hey, Miss Smoking Bread. Good to see you guys. All right, I'm gonna be quiet now.
So once I've gotten it color
Let me
coded, I'm
smoke.
going to then try to separate it and detect it by size
Listen.
and color. And this is where it's going to generate what's basically a graphical illustration. It's a color coded series, peaks and numbers, sort of like an EKG, like if you go to the doctor and get your heart checked out. So the graphical illustration of the DNA profile is this color coded series of peaks and numbers. I'm going to use that once I look at the DNA profile from an item of evidence, and then compare that to the DNA profile from any individuals involved in the case to see if they're the same or similar or different.
And are the procedures you've just described been widely accepted as valid scientific tests in this community?
Yes, they have.
And what does a forensic DNA comparison involve?
So comparing the DNA profiles from an item of evidence to any profiles developed from individuals involved in the case, it can look like this. So I will interpret the DNA data, say something is real. I will say either if it's uninterpretable, which means I can't make sense of the DNA data, but if I can interpret the DNA data, I have to establish a number of contributors. So my DNA profile could be one person, meaning that it's single source, or it could be a mixture of a number of individuals, meaning that it could be 2, 3, or 4 people. I will then look at the items of evidence profile and compare that to the individuals involved in the case to see if they're the same, similar, or different. That will involve a branch of statistics. That's basically the mathematics of making up your mind. And it's just a way for you to update your belief about a thing or an event once you're presented with results like DNA results. And so there's some level of support that you need to understand. So the numbers that I will report today is called a likelihood ratio, and that's the tool that I use to update my belief about a thing or an event. And so the comparison can be the likelihood ratio will tell you something. So if the DNA results support something that we call the inclusionary hypothesis, we call this H1 in the reporting, that you look at the DNA profile from the item of evidence, you look at the DNA profile from an individual involved in the case, and they show the same or similar information, you will get a number for the likelihood ratio, and it's 1,000 or greater. So the DNA results support inclusion. On the opposite side of that, you could have a likelihood ratio of 0. That means that I looked at the DNA profile from an item of evidence and the DNA profile from an individual involved in the case, and they are different. There's no way that that individual could be included as a possible contributor. There's a third way that the likelihood ratio could go, and it's inconclusive. And so that's when the DNA data is so limited or so unreliable that you can't really render a conclusion. So you can have a likelihood ratio where the DNA evidence supports inclusion, called hypothesis 1. That's where the likelihood ratio is 1,000 or greater. If the DNA results support exclusion, you would have a likelihood ratio of 0. And if it's inconclusive, it would be a number that is less than 1,000 in general.
And do you use a population database to provide a statistical significance to your comparison?
Yes, I do.
And can you describe how that database was derived and also how you use it in casework?
So the population database that I use was developed by a United States government organization called NIST. It's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And they're an organization that supports and promotes innovation and technology in various scientific disciplines, forensics being one of them. They also provide standards for measurement. And one of the things that they measured was the pieces of DNA information that are how they exist in different populations. So they basically counted up the information in human populations and provided the numbers. I used those numbers in the calculation for the likelihood ratio that I use in my statistical reporting.
Now turning to a little bit more specific, did you analyze a number of items in connection with this case that you're here to testify about?
Yes, I did.
And did you prepare written reports summarizing your findings and conclusions?
Yes,
How many reports did you generate?
5 in total.
Okay, before we get into his reports, let me explain. Okay, so Pixie had asked, do we think they were ambushed? Is this why they tested for these specific body fluids? So now I've listened to a little bit more because I heard the confession that he did to his friend. But we know that Devin asked Isaiah for a ride to go pick up Lyric. We know that Devin and Lyric were shot in the back. It appears while they were running because he was shot in the bottom of the foot, like mid-stride. They were dragged to where they were put and placed right by each other in the same position, laying flat on the back, arms out. But they were all together hanging out before, and he was providing a ride to them. And you're going to hear some more details on that that are unfortunate. I can't imagine Lyric's family having to sit through some of this in the courtroom, what happened yesterday, what I'm going to play for you in a moment. But so that's part of it. And we know that it's been mentioned all along the way that they were meeting up for some sort of sexual contact since the opening statements in the very beginning. So you'll hear some of these texts and see what I mean in a moment. But we also know, and what some of the DNA could be, besides the hair and the semen and stuff, Lyric, there was some of her blood, it's been mentioned, on the outside of the vehicle. And we know that with presumptive blood testing, they found a stain that was not visible to the eye. So it had been cleaned up off of the ceiling. He said the officer explained it as if like somebody had reached up to turn on a light and kind of dragged their hand across the top of the car. They cut out the fabric from the roof. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So 5 reports is a lot. I'm very interested to see like what all we're hearing about. And I think when they take their first morning break, we'll do the investigator's testimony. Then we'll come back to today's testimony and we'll hear the friend's confession if we have time during the next break or whatever. But because the investigator's testimony from yesterday, I think is pretty important, and they're probably going to build off of that a lot. So we need to hear that. So we'll get through this guy, and I bet you they'll do a morning break. They usually do a half an hour break or so, like about this far in, and then about that far in, and then we'll come back to it. And you guys, we might understand a little more kind of what happened and what's going on, because we know some of it, but at other times I'm sitting here like, what are they getting to? Kim, oh my gosh, thank you guys. Like some of you guys coming by here today. Thank you so much for being here. Really cool. Thank you. And Kim, I was reading your comments, and thank you for watching too and catching up on all of those. Thank you guys. All right. So, and thank everyone, really, sincerely. I appreciate every single one of you sitting here trying to listen to this with me. If they had to go through it, the least we could do is listen to it. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. All right. And then Tevin, yeah, thank you, Neat. Tevin is Devin's cousin who has joined us in the chat. He's probably there right now in person, so he wouldn't be joining while we're streaming while they're at court. But he was talking about his Etsy store and stuff, and Neat shared that link there. All right, so let's hear these 5 reports, and then we'll hear the investigator. I have it ready and pulled up on another tab ready to go. So as soon as I think we'll go to that as soon as we get through him, only because it's not going to make as much sense if we don't. That's probably why he
Your Honor,
testified in the
similarly, on
order
the
in which
disc,
he did
States Exhibit 149,
yesterday.
have all 5 complete reports, and then may I approach the witness with what I will mark as States 149A as in Alpha, 149B Bravo, 149C Charlie, 149D Delta, and 149E Echo.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ivory, I'll show you States 149A through E and ask you if you recognize those items.
Are the reports that I drafted for this case.
And just going through them one at a time, what is the date of the report on States 149A
This one is dated June 14th, 2024,
and States 149B?
October 25, 2024,
How about 149C,
November 21st, 2024,
149D,
September 5th, 2025,
and 149E?
January 7th, 2026.
And are those your complete reports?
This is the reports, yes.
And do they appear to be complete and accurate copies of your summary reports in this case?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, this time I would move States Exhibits 149 and then 149A through E into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. We will admit States number 149, the complete reports. Oh, there's 5 on there, is that right?
That's correct.
So States 149 is all 5 complete reports. States 149A is the summary report from June 14th, 2024. States 149B is the summary report from October 25th, 2024. States 149C is the summary report from November 21st, 2024. States 149D is the summary report from September 5th, 2025. And 149E is the summary report from January 7th, 2026. They'll
Thank
all
you.
be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if I could have just one moment.
Yes, ma'am.
There he is. There he is there. Let's not forget, like we talked about the other day, you know, this isn't some kid he can claim self-defense. He can claim, he's trying to claim that Devin shot Lyric. Let's not forget, when he left town and went back to Delaware, he literally wrote and put out rap songs about his crimes. And it kind of reminds me of the David, like D4VD David, because just blatantly, you know, in your face. So. He thought he was just so cool. I'm not going to fast forward when it's zoomed on him. Like, I'll fast forward stuff when we're kind of waiting and it's nothing, but not when it's on him.
You examined a number of items of evidence in connection with that report.
Yes.
And how did you receive those items?
I received them from the main evidence vault within the forensic biology section.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Ivory, these items have all been previously received into evidence. States Exhibit 116, the sexual assault kit for Devin Clark. States Exhibit 117, the sexual assault kit for Lyric Woods. States Exhibit 139, the cheek swab for the defendant, Isaiah Ross. States 119, the blood card for Devin Clark. States
They're going to
118,
individually
blood
talk
card
about
for
each thing. So I'm just going to skip through her talking about them already being in
These
evidence.
items that you examined prior to generating your lab report on June 14th of 2024.
May I take a look?
Yes.
Now he's going to look through each one real quick. Okay, sorry, I just figured we don't need to watch that every second of him just looking at it. But, you know, I'm glad he's being thorough.
Yes, these are the items of evidence that I associated or examined in the first case record that I examined.
And
Okay.
did you take a look at these three? Those three.
Yes,
And how are you able to recognize that these are the items of evidence that you examined?
I recognize them by their case number, their item numbers, as well as the initials and dates that I placed upon them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, when you receive your first set of evidence for a case, can you describe what process, how you start your examination?
So I would have, for any samples that were associated with the sexual assault kits, I would have performed a process called direct to
I just want to say something. You know, we talk about these when cases really explode and get really big, and everybody's like, you know, when there's thousands of people watching and they're giving theories, and you can tell that like people don't really understand how the court process works. And if they would just watch trials, like if it's a case that they're interested in and they followed and they or covered, hell, they go down there and protest in front of Quentin Simons, but don't watch his trial. If they would follow through and watch like if more people would follow through, then they would be so much more educated for the next trial. You know what I mean? Okay, that's
This, how you start your examination.
not relevant, but just
So
thinking.
I would have, for any samples that were associated with the sexual assault kits, I would have performed a process called direct to DNA. And that's where I'm just going to take samples from those sexual assault kit items, place them in the tube, and perform those DNA analysis steps that I told you about. Because these items presume to have possible semen on them, I perform that differential extraction. And so I walked my way through all of the analysis steps that I described earlier to generate DNA profiles from that. Additionally, there was some blood evidence in this particular case that could be associated with blood. And so I performed the Kastle-Meyer testing for some items in this case. And then some items were also submitted for no body fluid testing analysis because they were just items that might have been associated with handling some interior surface of the vehicle.
And how do you know or get the profile for what you're comparing it to?
So for the comparison, so remember we're generating DNA profiles from items of evidence, but I also received known standards, that's known samples taken from the individuals involved in the case, and I developed those DNA profiles as well, and then I make my comparisons in that order.
And what were the lab numbers for the known standards that you received in this case?
So item 10-1, it was a blood card from Lyric Woods. I also received item 13, which is a blood card from Devin Clark, as well as item 14, which was the DNA standard for Isaiah Ross.
And can you walk us through how you examined this evidence and what your conclusions were?
Would you like, it's a 7-page report, do you want me to group them? So
Uh,
there's the initial swabs from the exterior of the vehicle that had Kastle-Meyer testing performed. Do you want me to start there?
Yes, we will start with items, lab items 2 through 5.
All right.
which are, let me make sure I get the exhibit numbers on the record. These are states exhibit numbers 56, 57, 58, and 59, all of which are previously entered as swabs from the right front fender of the GMC terrain on the exterior. If you'll just walk us through your analysis of these items.
Would you like me to read the results? Because that basically says what I did.
Maybe I'm not asking you the right question. I guess just explain what you did with the items when you received them.
Okay, so I would have examined the packaging to make sure that the inventory list of items that were submitted was what I had in hand. I would have made sure that that packaging was sealed and intact. And then once I verified that information, I would have performed the Kastle-Meyer test on the items as I opened them. I would have viewed potentially reddish brown staining. If I saw that reddish brown staining, I would have subjected those items to the Kastle-Meyer test to see if I could find a chemical indication for the presence of blood. If I received that positive indication for the presence of blood, I would have then taken a sample for DNA analysis.
And with regard to these items, did you receive a chemical indication for the presence of blood?
Yes, I did.
And so then what were the next steps you took in your examination?
I developed a DNA profile from those samples.
Okay. And how did you do that?
I followed those DNA process steps that we talked about from extraction all the way through the generation of a profile.
And what, if any, conclusions were you able to reach about those items?
The DNA profile obtained from the swabs from the right fender of the GMC middle tire, the right front fender of the GMC back edge of wheel well, the right front fender of GMC back edge of tire, and the right front fender of GMC passenger door. These are items 2, 3, 4, and 5, respectively, is being interpreted as a single source profile. The DNA profile obtained from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, is included as a possible contributor to this profile. The DNA profiles obtained from Devin Clark and Isaiah Ross, items 13 and 14, respectively, are excluded as contributors to this profile. Given the evidence, the following propositions were considered for statistical calculation. Hypothesis 1, the evidence originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, or hypothesis 2, the evidence originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. The DNA profiles obtained from the swabs from the right front fender of GMC middle of tire, right front fender of GMC back edge of wheel well, right front fender of GMC back edge of tire, and the right front fender of GMC passenger door, items 2, 3, 4, and 5, respectively, are approximately 7.2 decillion times more likely if it originated from Lyric Woods than item 10-1, which is our H1, than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual, which is H2.
And what, if any, what examinations and comparisons did you do with lab item 6?
For lab item 6, I performed just DNA analysis.
And can you describe your results and conclusions with regard to that item?
The DNA profile from the swab from the interior front passenger door handle of GMC item 6 is being interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors. The mixture contains 3 interpretable components. The DNA profile obtained from Isaiah Ross, item 14, is included as a contributor 1 of this mixture. The DNA profiles obtained from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and Devin Carter, item 13, are excluded as contributors to this mixture. Additional DNA was present, which cannot be accounted for by the standards that were provided. Given the evidence, the following propositions were considered for statistical calculation. Hypothesis 1, the evidence originated from Isaiah Ross, item 14, and 2 unknown, unrelated individuals. Or hypothesis 2, the evidence originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. The mixture DNA profile obtained from the swab from the interior passenger door handle of the GMC, item 6, is approximately 189 quintillion times more likely if it originated from Isaiah Ross, item 14, and 2 unknown, unrelated individuals, H1, than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals, which is H2.
And I neglected to put on the record that was State Exhibit number 68. And moving on to lab item 7, which is State Exhibit 69. What examinations did you conduct and what conclusions did you reach?
I performed DNA analysis for item 7. The DNA profile obtained from the swab from the interior rear passenger door handle of the GMC is being interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors containing male DNA. The mixture contains 2 interpretable components. Component 3 is inconclusive due to an insufficient quality of recovered DNA. No comparisons to reference profiles for either inclusion or exclusion can be reported on this component. The DNA profile obtained from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, is included as a contributor 1 of this mixture. The DNA profiles obtained from Devin Clark and Isaiah Ross, item 13 and 14 respectively, are excluded as contributors to the interpretable components of this mixture. Additional DNA was present, which cannot be accounted for by the standards provided. Given the evidence, the propositions were considered for the statistical calculation. Hypothesis 1, the evidence originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and 2 unknown, unrelated individuals, or hypothesis 2, the evidence originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. The mixture DNA profile obtained from the swab from the interior rear passenger door handle of the GMC, item 7, is 3.04 bazillion times more likely if it originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and 2 unknown, unrelated individuals, H1, than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals.
Now, you said with regard to that analysis that it was a mixture of 3 contributors containing male DNA, but then that Lyric was included as a contributor. Can you explain what that means?
Yes, so there are multiple individuals contributing to this sample. And so there was male DNA detected as one of those contributors.
And moving forward to lab item number 8, States Exhibit number 70, can you describe what examination you completed and what your conclusion was?
DNA analysis was performed for item 8. The DNA profile obtained from the swab from the interior rear door handle, item 8, is being interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors. The mixture contains 3 interpretable components. The mixture contains at least 1 male profile. No conclusion can be rendered as to the contribution of the DNA profiles obtained from Lyric Woods and Isaiah Ross, items 10-1 and 14, respectively, due to an inconclusive likelihood ratio result. The DNA profile obtained from Devin Clark, item 13, is excluded as a contributor to this mixture. Additional DNA was present, which cannot be accounted for by the standards provided.
And can you, I know you walked through it a little while ago, can you describe what an inconclusive likelihood ratio result means?
That's generally when you run the statistical evaluation for the likelihood ratio, and the DNA results are generally regarded as unreliable at that level. So it's below the level of 1,000 for the likelihood ratio.
And what could cause that?
Oh, limited DNA, you just don't have enough information, or the way that the proportions for the mixtures work out, that they just don't meet our thresholds within the laboratory for reliable data or reporting.
And moving on to lab item 9, States Exhibit 71, can you describe your analysis with regard to that item?
Item 9, only DNA analysis performed on that item. The DNA profile obtained from the swab from the interior driver door handle of item 9 is uninterpretable due to the complexity of the mixture and due to the limited data amount obtained. The profile is not suitable for comparisons.
And for what reason would it be unsuitable?
So for this particular sample, I had a problem trying to establish a number of contributors. So it was a low-level DNA sample that was a mixture. And because of that, I could not make sense of the data. So I called it uninterpretable.
Now, the next items are items 10-2, 10-3, and 10-7. What are those items?
Item 10-2 are described as vaginal swabs. Item 10-3 are described as anal and perianal swabs. And item 10-7 is described as breast swabs.
And where did those items come from?
These were contained within the sexual assault kit for Lyric Woods.
And what, if anything, were you able to examine and conclude about those items?
Based on the quantification results obtained, no further analysis was performed on the samples taken from items 10-2, 10-3, and 10-7.
And can you describe that a little more detail for the jury?
So when a sample stops at quantitation, that means I've measured the quantity or the amount of the DNA. And in this particular instance, there was only female DNA associated with those samples. So there was no male information that was foreign to female DNA.
Moving to lab item 10-4, what was that item?
10-4 was described as the oral swabs
And from what source?
from Lyric Woods sexual assault kit.
And can you describe the analysis you performed and what conclusions you were able to reach with regard to that item?
The DNA profile obtained from fraction 1 of the oral swabs is being interpreted as a single source profile. Lyric Woods, the donor of the known sample, is assumed as being the contributor of this profile. The DNA profiles from Devin Clark and Isaiah Ross, items 13 and 14 respectively, are excluded as contributors to this profile.
You mentioned fractions, and I believe that goes back to differential extraction. Can you explain why you performed a differential extraction on this item of evidence?
Since these items were contained within the sexual assault kit, it could be assumed that they could potentially come in contact with semen, and our procedures dictate how we handle those samples. So if you have this sense of, especially from kit items or sexual assault kit items, if it's associated with semen, you can perform a differential extraction under certain circumstances.
And does that change how you then process the fractions of the that you develop?
Yeah, so there are 2 separate samples which will yield different profiles. So the fraction 1 sample, remember, is usually what we're trying to determine from the individual for which the sample, from the body the sample was collected. So usually that's what we're trying to isolate the DNA from, the individual whose body the sample was collected from. The fraction 2 sample is more along the lines of if there is potential sperm cells. Remember that sperm has a tough outer coat, and so I have to use harsher chemicals to try to open the cell of the sperm to get any DNA out, if any is present.
So with regard to item 10-4, fraction 1, you're trying to isolate Lyric's DNA since she was the donor of the sample. Is that?
So just trying to develop a DNA profile which may contain DNA from an individual the sample was collected from.
Okay. And then moving on to fraction 2 of that item, what, if any, determinations were you able to make?
The DNA profile from fraction 2 of the oral swabs is being interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors. The mixture contains 2 interpretable components. Lyric Woods, the donor of the known sample, item 10-1, is assumed as being contributor 1 of this DNA profile. The DNA profile from Devin Clark, item 13, is included as contributor 2 of this mixture. The DNA profile from Isaiah Ross, item 14, is excluded as a contributor to the mixture. Given the evidence, the following propositions were considered for the statistical calculation. Hypothesis 1, the evidence originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and Devin Clark, item 13, or hypothesis 2, the evidence originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and an unknown, unrelated individual. The DNA mixture profile obtained from fraction 2 of the oral swabs, item 10-4, F2, is approximately 228 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and Devin Clark, item 13, H1, than if it originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and an unknown, unrelated individual, which is H2.
So the fact that Mr. Clark was included as a contributor to fraction 2, does that mean that there was semen or sperm present?
No, it doesn't mean that.
Okay. I guess, can you explain that a little further? What could that DNA have come from?
I can't say the sourcing of the DNA because I didn't do serological examinations. So the traditional serological exams are not routinely performed on sexual assault kit items of evidence because we now know that DNA testing is more sensitive than serological exams. So we don't do the front end testing for a serology examination so that we can get a DNA profile. Because if every time you take a sample from an item, you're consuming it. And so if you consume it on the front end doing the serology testing, you may not have enough of it to produce a DNA profile.
We'll move to lab item 10-5. And what was that item?
Item 10-5 is described as the swabbing from the underpants.
And did you also perform a differential extraction on this item?
Yes, I did.
And can you describe what conclusions you were able to reach with regard to item 10-5?
The DNA profile obtained from fraction 1 of the swabbing from the underpants, 10-5, item 10-5, is being interpreted as a single source profile. Lyric Woods, the donor of the known sample, item 10-1, is assumed as being the contributor of this profile. The DNA profile obtained from Devin Clark and Isaiah Ross, items 13 and 14 respectively, are excluded as contributors to this profile. No population frequency data were generated for the contribution of the DNA from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, to this fraction. The DNA profile obtained from fraction 2 of the swabbing from the underpants, item 10-5, is being interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors. The mixture contains 2 interpretable components. Lyric Woods, the donor of the known sample, item 10-1, is assumed as being contributor 1 of the DNA profile. The DNA profile obtained from Devin Clark, item 13, is included as contributor 2 of this mixture. The DNA profile obtained from Isaiah Ross, item 14, is excluded as a contributor to the mixture.
So I don't think they are claiming that she was essayed at all, but the claim is that the kids met up to do sexual stuff. Now, when this fella is finished testifying, I'm sure they're going on break, and we are going to listen to an investigator who's going to give more information about the scene. And he's the one who tells about the gunshot wound to Devin's thigh. We're also going to get more information about their Snapchats back and forth to each other, specifically Devin and Isaiah mainly, and what Devin says they were going to do and what he needed a ride for. So you guys will get to hear that. I've already heard it. I couldn't help it. After yesterday and last night, I was so upset yesterday about not being able to find thorough coverage of this, and the bigger places not restreaming it like they do everything else. After I kind of calmed down last night, I did watch most of yesterday's proceedings. I figured I might as well, so I have an idea of what we've missed before we go into today. And I'm glad that I did, so I can kind of give you guys a little bit of context, and so that you know, as soon as this goes on break here, we'll be watching that and you'll get filled in. And then there is a standalone video of the friend who Isaiah confessed to. The news actually clipped it alone, so if we don't get to that, we'll watch as much as we can today. So, and then whatever we don't get to, I'll share links with you guys, and we'll get to tomorrow.
Given the evidence, the following propositions were considered for the statistical calculation. Hypothesis 1, the evidence originated from.
I know,
Lyric
Mrs.
Woods,
Italy, I don't like it
10-1,
either.
and Devin Clark, item
I
13.
don't like it either.
Or hypothesis 2, the evidence originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and an unknown unrelated individual. The DNA mixture profile obtained from fraction 2 of the swabbing from the underpants, item 10-5, is approximately 225 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and Devin Clark, H1, than if it originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and an unknown unrelated individual, H2.
And how about lab item 10-6? What was that item?
This was described as external genitalia swabs.
Wait a minute. Every swab that has came back to have both Lyric and Devin's DNA has had Isaiah's excluded. Was he mad because he was excluded? Because Devin tells him, I'm going to give you guys a little spoiler. You know, I'll get her to do it to you too. Do you want to get 8 for a ride? Basically trying to say that he was going to get him, God forgive me, I'm sorry that I even have to say this, a blowjob for the ride. Like, because of who we're referring to, it's just, I don't like it. And it doesn't appear that he got that. It's none of his DNA is included. So is that why the prosecution is bringing this up? Because this is their case they're presenting. This isn't the defense putting. They put a lot on that it isn't necessarily relevant to prove their case with some of this. So is it he didn't get what he was told he was going to get and he got mad? And is it possible they were ambushed while they were like, you know, out in the field be together? I don't know. Because they were. Let me just keep letting it play, and then I'll show you where these little, like the testimony I keep mentioning.
And
It'll make so much
the
more
results
sense what I'm
of our DNA
saying.
profile obtained from the external genitalia swabs is being interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors. The mixture contains 2 interpretable components. Lyric Woods, the donor of the known sample, item 10-1, is assumed as being contributor 1 of this DNA profile. DNA profile obtained from Devin Clark, item 13, is included as contributor 2 of this mixture. The DNA profile obtained from Isaiah Ross, item 14, is excluded as a contributor to the mixture.
Again, excluded.
Given the
See?
evidence, the following propositions were considered
Me
for the
too,
statistical
Nate.
calculation. Hypothesis 1, the evidence originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and Devin Clark, item 13. Or hypothesis 2, the evidence originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and an unknown unrelated individual. The mixture, DNA profile obtained from the external genitalia swabs, item 10-6, is approximately 909 septillion times more likely if it originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and Devin Clark, item 13H1, than if it originated from Lyric Woods, item 10-1, and an unknown unrelated individual, H2.
And both, I think I forgot to ask, both 10-5 and 10-6, were those also derived from Lyric Woods' sexual assault kit?
Yes, they were.
And then did you also examine some items derived from Devin Clark's sexual assault kit?
Yes, I did.
And looking at lab item 11-2, what was that item?
Item 11-2 is described as the anal and perianal swabs
From,
contained within the sexual assault kit from Devin Clark.
and can you describe the examination and conclusions you reached in regard to item 11-2?
I performed DNA analysis on this item, and a differential extraction was performed on item 11-2. So the DNA profile obtained from fraction 1 of the anal and perianal swabs, item 11-2, is being interpreted as a single source profile. Devin Clark, the donor of the known sample, item 13, is assumed as being contributor to this DNA profile. The DNA profiles obtained from Lyric Woods and Isaiah, items 10-1 and 14 respectively, are excluded as contributors to this profile. The DNA profile obtained from fraction 2 of the anal and perianal swabs is being interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors. The mixture contains 1 interpretable component. Devin Clark, the donor of the known sample, item 13, is assumed as being contributor 1 of this DNA profile. Component 2 is inconclusive due to an insufficient quality of recovered DNA. No comparisons to reference profiles for either inclusion or exclusion can be reported on this component. The DNA profiles obtained from Lyric Woods and Isaiah, items 10-1 and 14 respectively, are excluded as contributors to the interpretable components of the mixture. No population frequency data were generated for the contribution of the DNA profile from Devin Clark, item 13, to fractions 1 and 2 of item 11-2.
Let's go ahead and take a break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a morning recess. Please remember all of my.
Now, honestly, we could skip ahead. Let's see if they're back. They are back on the stand. You guys tell me, should we pause for this break, leave it here
And
where
can you
he's going to
describe
pick back
what, if
up
any,
and go and catch up with the testimony from the investigator yesterday? We can wait on the friend. This way, when we come back to this, you guys have a better idea. Because again, I think they, you know, when the prosecution is planning, okay, I'm putting my case together, I'm going to have this witness, this witness, this witness. I do believe it's in order for a reason, like in a specific order for a reason. But you tell me, I'm down for whatever. But what, like the first couple comments, what you guys want, that's what we'll do. Do we want to go over here to this cop? I can't help it. I found him, something about him just good looking. It was just like his vibe. It wasn't even his look, really. Or do we want to go back to after the break? The investigator. Okay. Mama Bear, I know. 7 says investigators. Let's see what, if we can, you know what makes the most sense, Allie? Catch up. Okay. Miss Italy D, I know you were only going to be here for like an hour. So I think that this will be more important. Like to catch up is most important right now, and then go into that. It makes the most sense to me. Whatever makes the most sense. Okay. Okay. So this is from yesterday. This is what we missed when it was hard to find reliable footage. He's just now about to get up on the stand. I have his name right here. He's going to tell us, but this is Keith Goodwin. And the first timestamp I have, yeah, he's going to get right into it. I'm going to let you guys know he's going to talk about the scene and stuff like that. And the text messages between the boys, they're not respectful of how they're talking about Lyric. I don't like it. I feel so bad for her parents. They don't talk about her terribly, but like calling her that bitch Lyric. Which then again, you have to think about it and remove ourselves from ourselves and remember, you know, kids, hell, I call my friends bitches. hey bitches, what's up? Or whatever. You know how people are. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's like in a degrading way. It seems that Devin, and liked lyrics. So just remember that as we get into it. It's kind of tough to listen to. It's very heartbreaking, but it's adds so much context to everything else that we're listening to right now this morning. Okay. Let me change my little banner here. What did I say? Keith Goodwin. Orange County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you please state and spell your name for the court reporter?
Keith Goodwin, Keithgoodwin.
And we have
And
closed
where do you work?
captioning.
The Orange
If it's
County
an older
Sheriff's
one.
How long have you been there?
Office since July of 2013.
And what's your current position with the sheriff's office?
I'm currently the sergeant of the criminal investigations.
Hey, Wolfie.
What other roles have you had at the sheriff's office since 2013?
Started out in the detention facility for a couple of months. I worked on the patrol division for 2.5 years. I come to investigations
Seven.
in 2016. In 2019, I was assigned to the FBI Safe Streets Task Force out of Raleigh. And then in 2023,
He's easy on the eyes, I
I
think.
became sergeant in investigations and come off the task force. And that's my current role.
And drawing your attention to September 18th of 2022, did you respond to the area off of Buckhorn Road where the bodies were located?
I did.
And why did you respond there?
Received a phone call from my captain at the time, Captain Ray, about 2 individuals that were on 4-wheelers going down an access road that located 2 deceased bodies.
And about what time was that call?
I would say it was 3:30 that afternoon, 3:30 that afternoon, best of my knowledge.
And what happened when you arrived on scene?
The first thing that I noticed, pulled over at the intersection of Buckhorn and Yarborough, on the opposite side of the road from where the crime scene was. I noticed that there was already a crime scene tape put up. Several investigators were standing around. I saw several evidence markers on the ground. I first went to Deputy Sampson, who was maintaining the crime scene log, to have her put me down for the time that I arrived. After that, I walked up the access road. There's a little bit of an incline going up to the top where ultimately the bodies were located. Saw several items of evidence that had already been marked, to include shell casings and what appeared to be blood splatter at the time at the top of the hill.
And what else did you observe on scene?
So of importance, one of the first things that I noticed was that both kids, Devin and Lyric, were lying on their backs, off to the side of the initial access road area, as you saw in some of the crime scene photos.
So having been here to this area, I can picture it just perfectly. While he's talking, I'm going to go, I'll rewind it 10 seconds just so that you can get the full picture. I'm going to go and get the pictures that I took of the memorial when I went with, like I said, the Cypher podcast and Incognito Gypsy. So you guys can see the area, because there are different places. There are like there are 3 different sets of shell casings. We've got blood spatter up on the gravel, yet the kids were out in the field, just so you guys can make sense of, or, not out in the field, but towards the field, like half grass, half gravel, of kind of what they're referring to. Let's see if I can find it.
Did you observe on scene?
So of importance, one of the first things that I noticed was that both kids, Devin and Lyric, were lying on their backs, off to the side of the initial access road area, as you saw in some of the crime scene photos. Both of their arms were out to the side in a like a T formation, and both of their legs were down straight out, with Lyric having one of her legs being slightly bent. As I looked at the bodies as they were laying there, I noticed that Devin's pants were down just below midways of his thighs, and you could see his boxer briefs. And what stood out to me was that there was gravel on the front part of Devin's boxer briefs around his private part area. There was also dirt that I observed on the top part of Devin's right sock at the top of his toes. Devin's sweatshirt was pulled up, as it's been previously testified to, and there was also dirt on the front of Devin's sweatshirt. It should be one of the other things that was very interesting was Devin's pants were pulled down, or they were down below his boxer briefs. And as it was testified previously, there was from the medical examiner, there was a bullet hole in the right thigh of Devin's leg. The hole in Devin's pants
I
was
found my
down
pictures.
right above his knee, with no wound being observed there, as if Devin had been drugged from his stomach and then ultimately rolled over. One thing that I noticed on Lyric's body was that there was a bullet hole around the front part of her sweatshirt, where there was also dirt or dust from the gravel located there as well, meaning that she at some point would have been face down and then ultimately rolled over into the position that we discovered them in.
What, if anything else, did you do while you were on scene?
I didn't do. I attempted to find evidence, but everything that was already marked is the only thing that I found, and then I left before the scene was cleared.
And later in the evening on September 18th, did you respond to the residence of Dexter Clark?
I did.
And where is that?
Dexter lived off of Holt Street in the city limits of Mebane.
And why did you go there?
Captain Ray had called and said that he had a phone conversation with Dexter about him noticing that his firearm was.
So they were dragged and then placed perfectly on their backs. Now, I just found a ton of pictures I took when I went there, and this is going to make it so much easier for y'all to understand. I'm so glad I found these. So I'm uploading them right now, and as soon as they upload, we're going to take a pause and I'm going to show you, because I was literally we thought that the memorial was like far off from where they were actually found. Come to find out, no, it appears that this is the exact area, especially with some of the other photos that have been released now. So as soon as they go through, we'll go over there and take a look.
Had been shot and killed.
What happened at Mr. Clark's residence?
Well, they went through, and I think it's best to go right now while we're talking about the scene before we get to go into Devin's house. Okay, so which way do I move? This is the first one. Just one second, you guys. They're kind of in a weird order. Like, okay. This is from up at the top. This is exactly about where they were found. They were found, a little bit further to the left from their memorial crosses. One is for Devin and one was for Lyric. This was Lyric's down here. The red one, the white one is for Devin. If you see this house here, I think that's the neighbor who testified. This is the main road they talked about. It's just real close to the main road. This is Devin's memorial it has the number 4. That was his football number. There was a lot of like little spells for these kids and like magic things up there. I'll show you because I sent some of the pictures over. Here's a closer look. And if you look, this right here is one of the things I'm talking about in this little bottle. So it says, you know, so mote it be. It's a thing for justice and for the truth to come out. You know, we didn't put this stuff here. We did actually, though, go and get a couple of lights and flowers and add to their memorial. But these pictures are just how it was when we got there. This is lyrics. As you can see, her bracelets on the side of the cross. You know, they were not out in the field. They were in the clearing. So this is right around where they were. Here's hers again, stuffed animals and bracelets. And there's Devin's again, the 4. You can see the candles. That candle was there, and somewhat like they had a lighter at the memorial too. So I guess for people when they came up there to light the candle. Now, if you look, this is how close it was to that house. Look at this. Oh, and see this spotlight? Her grandpa put that there, and it said, because I think there was even a note, if I'm not mistaken, about her being afraid of the dark. Her grandpa, who is also fired in the fire department that helped find her. I think this is probably one of the reasons that, like, this means so much to me. I want people to know about it because I've been here and seen these memorials and just for years waited on justice, you know, and it's just like very frustrating. Like I said, my tears yesterday were more out of frustration and anger. It's not about me. This has nothing to do with me. It's just hard to watch. Like, it's important. And, you know, I don't know. It's just hard to sit back and see sometimes the way shit goes. These are, I think, the tire marks that they were talking about pulling out. If you look here, here's that house I just showed. Here is, remember she said there was a vape and something right by the road, and they had to mark off the scene a little further down to block off the road to get the tire tracks. Now, it could have been all the investigators too, but this is like how it must have looked. And this is like the area where that would have been. This is, if you look, as soon as you get to the top, their memorials are right here. You just can't see it because of this tall grass. But back here is a 4-wheeler trail. Remember, 4-wheeler riders found them. And we thought that the crime was like, must have happened way back there. It was blocked off, like private property thing. But you could see the crime scene tape from right beside the road that's how it's blocked off. So we thought the crime happened up there and this is just where the memorial was. But no, we were wrong. This is where it all occurred, or where all the blood and the shell casings and the kids were found. See, this is that circular thing I mentioned on Devin's memorial. It says, bring justice for these kids. And that said, justice for Devin Clark. That was also on his memorial. Then these blue rocks and the blue brick. And then here's lyrics, all of her bracelets and necklaces. You can see that spotlight there. This is from when we went to talk to the community. Went to talk to the neighbors. We went to talk to a lot of the kids like that we just ran into in the community. Incognito Gypsy would spark up conversation. We never like put any of that out as content or anything, or even tried to film or interview. But we still wanted to just get a feel for where we were at and what had happened. This is, you can literally see the memorial crosses there. Remember, I told you guys it was so close to the neighbors. You could see the crosses. I think it's right there. It's hard to see in that picture. Here, you can see it in this one. That's how close to the main road. This is the main road. And that's how close. I think that's another main road and they meet right there. Oh, And that's it. So if you go to Decipher Podcast, that had me in the picture, but I'm looking all crazy in this long sweater dress. If you go to Decipher Podcast channel, I've dropped a link. They have a video that you can see me in my dress in all my glory, and you'll see like where that picture came from, but I'm not showing it. There's their link. These really help so much with context seeing it. Thank you, Tess. I thought like they helped me too, you know, being able to see the area and just get a feel and know. And now I'm glad that you guys got to see. I'm glad that I found those. Hey, Titanium Built. Oh, thank you, Trio Girl Mom. Thank you for being here. These pictures are so helpful. You're welcome. Yeah, her grandpa wrote the sweetest words for her. I can't remember. Was it like a little note left on the light? I can't remember that well. It's kind of fuzzy. But, okay. Now we're going to get back to it. Hey, listen, Seven, I love a good moo-moo. I am the moo-moo queen. Ask Bendy. When it's came up in the past, like people have been like kind of laughed at for wearing moo-moos and stuff, I've told Bendy, listen, girl, there ain't nothing better than a moo-moo. She tried to fight with me and say I don't wear moo-moos, but I tried to explain to her, yes, the hell I do, and I love every second of it. So yes, like moo-moo. Yes, we do believe that is the same neighbor's house. I talked to one of the girls that went with us from Decipher, and we do believe that is the same neighbor that testified. Yes. Okay, so let's get back to Keith's testimony. Now, I'm going to warn y'all, we're going to hear about going to talk to Devin's dad for a minute. And then after that, we're going to start listening to the Snapchat messages. And again, they're not necessarily respectful or pleasant to listen to. So here we go.
I arrived there with Investigator Hall. We walked around to the rear of the residence where Dexter was at. He invited us inside, went to a brown, if you will, dresser drawer with multiple drawers in it. He opened up the top right drawer of the dresser, showed us the box that the firearm was in, showed us the box of ammunition, and said, obviously, the firearm's not here. I was able to manually observe the bullets that were in the box and remembered seeing the shell casings that were at the scene and knowing that they were the same.
And what made you believe that they were the same?
The markings on the stamping on the backside of the shell or the bullet.
And one other quick thing. If I knew then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have tried to talk to the neighbors. I mean, who the hell are we? We don't have no business in getting in the middle of this. It was an open investigation. Now, again, we never, like a lot of the people that talked to us, we never put that out in videos. But still, I mean, a lot. There was a lot of people that talked to us, like Incognito Gypsy asking random kids in the Dollar Tree. It started with if they were aware of Devin or Lyric, and then just and other things. And we never put that out as content. But then still, I don't agree with us necessarily doing that now. I think that we were way too green. We thought that we just didn't realize our place. And now it really annoys me when YouTubers try to act like they are investigators or something. Now, investigative journalism, after the trial, to go out there and like talk to the community and talk to the neighbors and make a documentary about what happened and how this affected them and stuff, that would be cool. I wouldn't be against that. It's just like while it's being investigated, I am against that now. But it takes time, learning and growing in these communities before. Sometimes I think when you're new to it, you don't necessarily see it for what it is. And I do think we were wrong for that. I just want to say that. Okay, let's go.
What, if anything else, in relation to this investigation did you do on September 18th?
After leaving from Dexter's house in Mebane, I responded back to the sheriff's office with the evidence, the bullets that were collected, and as being a part of the FBI task force at the time, I called them to request assistance in this case.
And what type of assistance were your colleagues on the task force able to provide?
They could do search warrants, court orders, phone information. They could be another assistance in neighborhood canvassing, interviews, apprehension. Once we determined who the suspect was, things of that nature.
And were they able to assist in this case?
Yes.
Moving forward to the following morning, Monday, September 19th, can you describe what occurred on that morning?
Yeah. So that morning, that evening of the 18th, when I had the phone call with one of the members on the task force, they agreed to meet at the sheriff's office at 9 a.m. and we held a briefing at the office to kind of go over everything that needed to be done, what had been done, and who could do it. And so after the briefing was concluded, I went with the members of the task force and started completing different types of search warrants, court orders, and stuff of that nature.
Now at this time, did you all have Lyric's electronic devices that her family had provided?
We did.
And what,
Here
if
we
anything,
go.
did you do with those devices?
There
Pixie
were search
and me,
warrants
y'all are funny.
completed. Forensic download, scratch that. The parents gave us consent, so we did not do a search warrant. A forensic download was completed. I was able to review the forensic download. I was able to review the actual device itself and see the contents of conversations via Snapchat, as that's how I knew that they had met up, essentially, on the early morning hours of the 17th.
Can you
I'm nervous for y'all to hear this. I'm like, I hate it because I don't want, it doesn't put Devin in the best light. And he's a victim in this. And, I just don't like it. And again, I think that him calling that bitch Lyric is not like that evil, terrible person. I don't like Lyric. It's like that girl Lyric. You know what I mean? The way that people, like young people talk, or people talk to their friends, or, hell, Melissa Jade is one of my best friends in the whole world. I love her with all my heart. And I could totally say, go get that bitch, Melissa. You know what I mean? But so I don't want to jump to any conclusions that it was meant in any way like that. And I just, here we
briefly
go.
describe for the jury what a forensic download means?
Hey, cutie
Forensic
pie.
download is
Yeah, Tess,
a
right.
download that
Trying to be tough
it's
and
a
cool. Right.
software that we have here at the sheriff's office that we plug the device into, and it extracts, makes a digital copy of everything that's on the device.
Get that
Once we
big
have the
neat
download,
noodle.
we then put it into a different software to generate a report. And once we have the report, we are able to go through and read everything in a more streamlined way than having to go through all the apps on the phone and stuff like that.
When a forensic download is conducted, are you able to manipulate the data at all?
No.
Okay. Tell us about it, sir. Am I right? Did you guys find him to be attractive? Also, remember, you're going to hear Devin is going to promise some favors from Lyric to Isaiah. And right now, my theory is that didn't work out and that he never even meant it. He was just probably telling him that because we just heard about the DNA and whose DNA was where. And it did seem that there was a few mixtures of Lyric and Devin's DNA, but definitely none that included Isaiah, right? So just remember that as well when you hear some of the things that he says. He's a young boy, and boys with other boys are even more boyish. You know what I'm saying? So just not to make excuses, but also it's uncomfortable. It's
And
uncomfortable.
in
All right, let me
reviewing
just stop and let it.
Lyric's device forensic downloads, were you able to determine a Snapchat account for her?
I was, yes.
And what was that?
Lyric Isabella, 2 A's, no space.
And what, if anything, did you see on her Snapchat account?
I noticed that there was communication in the early morning hours of Saturday, September 17th to Snapchat account basketball_1296.
At that time, did you know who basketball_1296 was?
At that time, I did not.
Straight that. What did you do once you discovered these messages to that Snapchat account?
Sent a search warrant to Snapchat for the account information for basketball_1296,
And sorry.
as well as for Lyrics Snapchat account.
And what type of information were you hoping to receive from Snapchat?
Knowing how Snapchat operates, I know that data can be limited. So I was hoping to obtain any type of text communication between the two accounts to have more information on what exactly was taking place and what if any anybody else they had talked to leading up to this image that was captured on her Snapchat screenshot, if you will.
Your Honor, this time I would seek, one question. Did you receive a return from Snapchat?
I did, yes.
At this time, I would seek to introduce States Exhibit 128 and accompanying affidavit, States Exhibit 129, the Snapchat return by stipulation.
Just so clarify, the Snapchat return, is it for both Snapchat's accounts that we have been talking about?
No, ma'am, it is just for basketball_1296.
Let's show number 128 is the Snapchat search warrant return for the account basketball_1296.
Yes, Your Honor.
And number 129 is the affidavit, business records affidavit accompanying that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection to the admission of states 128 and 129?
No objection to those. Thank you, Your Honor.
States 128 and 129 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. The stipulation also includes that the subscriber identifier basketball_1296 belonged to Devin Clark.
Let me just clarify. Is that an exhibit that you're admitting, or is that a stipulation between the parties, or you just let me know?
This is a stipulation between the parties, Your Honor.
May I have that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen. The state of North Carolina, through the assistant district attorney, represents to the court that the state and the defendant have entered into the following stipulation. 1, information including subscriber information, communication content, and transactional metadata was obtained by investigators in this case from Snap Inc., the parent company of the Snapchat app, for subscriber identified as basketball_1296. Number 2, those records are business records of the description contained in North Carolina Rule of Evidence 803, subsection 6, and such records may be authenticated by affidavit. The records obtained by law enforcement are relevant to this trial and are not otherwise inadmissible. Number 3, the parties further stipulate that the subscriber identifier basketball_1296 belonged to Devin Clark, and that these records are being introduced as State's Exhibit number 128. All right. Thank you, Madam DA.
Thank you. Sergeant Goodwin, did you have an opportunity to review that return from Snapchat?
I was, yes.
And did you find any messages between Lyric Isabella and the owner of this account, Mr. Clark?
I did, yes.
May I first witness?
You may.
Sergeant Goodwin, I'll show you what I've marked for identification purposes as States Exhibits 130 and 131 and ask you if you recognize those.
Now, I want to make a note of something for you guys while we get into these messages. They don't seem to read out all of Devin and Lyric's messages. I think they only read out one. Now, they go through quite a few with Devin and Isaiah, but sorry, I'm out of breath. I'm in there making the bed. But they only read out one with Lyric and Devin. So, yeah, okay.
Yes.
And what are States 30 and 131?
States 130 is the communication thread from Lyric and Devin using the Lyric Isabella with 2 A's and basketball underscore 1296 Snapchat usernames.
And can you please walk the jury through what the content of those messages is?
Yes.
I hate to interrupt. Can we get the time frame we're talking about here, or at least the beginning of the chat?
Absolutely, Your Honor. Looking at States 130, are there timestamps connected with those messages?
Yes.
And is this an extraction report from the software that you mentioned earlier?
It is. Yes.
What does the timestamp say?
The timestamp says on the first message 5:21 13 seconds a.m.
And what time zone or time zone, sure, are we talking about at natively for these messages?
That would be UTC.
What's UTC?
4 hours faster than Eastern Standard Time.
And so to convert that time to Eastern Standard Time, what time would that first message be?
1:21 a.m.
Thank you. And who contacted who at 1:21 a.m.?
Lyric contacted Devin.
And what does that message say?
It gives Lyric's address.
And then are there additional messages?
Yes.
And what is the next message?
At these are all on 9/17 that Saturday morning at 1:22 a.m. She sends a screenshot telling Devin where to pick her up.
And is that screenshot States Exhibit 131?
It is, yes.
And what does it appear to be contained in that screenshot?
It shows where Lyric currently was. She screenshots the area, circles it, and then sends it to Devin.
Could y'all approach real quick?
Your Honor, this time the state would move to admit States Exhibits 130 and 131.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, States 130 and 131 will be admitted. Thank you.
Thank you. And after the screenshot, what is the next message?
Also on 9/17 at 1:22 a.m. it says park there.
And what's the next message after that?
The same date, the same time. It says like on the side of the road on that side.
And how about the next message?
Same date and same time, and cut the lights off when you there.
And how about the next message?
Same date and same time till I get in the car. And those are all from Lyric to Devin.
And is that the entirety of the messages that you located between Lyric and Devin?
Yes.
May I reapproach the witness?
You may.
He says there that it's the entirety, but I don't see how that could be. But then he says later that like with Snapchat, you actually never get the entirety because they're deleted. You only get so much. So I don't know. That's a little bit confusing for me. But maybe they talk. I don't know. But now we'll get into the others between the boys, which, like I said, they're mainly between them.
May I publish States 131 to the jury?
You may. Just 131?
Just 131. Just want to hold it up.
Yes.
May I reposition, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, did you find any other messages between Devin and Lyric in the Snapchat return?
Between them two, no.
Is that unusual?
No.
And why not?
Snapchat is known for once you send something to someone, it deletes itself. And so in this instance, some of the messages or photos or whatever else could have been sent could have been deleted.
In reviewing the Snapchat return, did you find any other messages that Devin sent that night?
I did.
And could you just give a brief overview of what those messages were?
Devin was inquiring a ride from some friends about meeting up with Lyric to, I guess, to perform some type of sexual favors or some sort.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Now, I got to say something, just full disclosure. My recollection of watching this last night, sorry, I'm still cleaning the house. I'm out of breath. But my recollection of watching this last night, I was very upset yesterday, kind of all day, over the trial. And then I had that live and I just so frustrated, crying tears, mad, upset. And I had finally calmed down and I was kind of chilling. I had ate something and I was just sitting on the porch smoking, chilling by myself. So it could be slightly off, right? Like I know what I've told you about, like the calling her the bee and all that. That's definitely, but there might be some things that I forgot or I don't know. I was just, you know how it is when you're really emotional and you're like shook up like that. You don't necessarily process the information the same way you do when you're calm and normal. So just remember that.
Sergeant Goodwin, I'll show you what I've marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 132 and ask you if you recognize this.
I do.
And what is contained in State's Exhibit 132?
It is the extraction report for basketball _1296 and a conversation with a username JAHDEEZYYY.
And what's the date and time on that conversation?
As it appears here, it is 9/17/2022 at 3:01 a.m.
And is that in UTC or Eastern Standard Time?
This is in UTC.
So what would that be in Eastern Standard?
11:01 p.m. on the night of the 16th.
Your Honor, this time I would move to amend State's 132.
And if I could just clarify, Madam DA, is this an extraction report from a phone or from Snapchat?
From Snapchat.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any objection to State's number 132?
No objection to its submission, Judge.
State's 132 will be admitted.
Sergeant Goodwin, could you walk us through the messages between basketball _1296 and Jadizi?
The first message on 9/16/2022 at 11:01 p.m. Devin sends the message to Jadizi, "Hell you doing, fool?"
And what's the next message?
On 9/16 at 11:05 p.m., Jadizi responds, "NSGNG."
And do you have any sort of opinion about what that means?
I do.
What is that?
Not shit gang.
And how about the next message?
Devin responds to Jadizi at 11:05 and says, "You try and get 8 tonight."
And do you have any opinion about what that means?
I do, yes.
And what do you think that means?
Oral sex.
And how about the next message?
Jadizi replies back at the same date and time stamp at 11:05 p.m. Says, "By who?" with an emoji,
What emoji is it?
a laughing face.
And does Devin respond?
He does, yes.
What does he say?
At 11:05 p.m., same date, LMAO, that bitch lyric,
And what does LMAO mean if you know?
laughing my ass off.
And
Seemed to be a
what's the
reaction
next
in the
message?
courtroom on that.
Same date at 11:06 p.m., Devin responds back. She said she'll eat both us.
And what's the next message?
Same date, same timestamp at 11:06 p.m. It's 2 laughing emojis from Devin to Jadizi.
And how about the next message?
Jadizi responds the same date, same time at 11:06 p.m. and says, wait, what? With 2 what appears to be laughing emojis.
And does Devin respond?
Yes, he does.
What does he say?
At 11:07 p.m. on the same date, LMAO OMM but shit WTW.
Do you have any idea what any of those acronyms mean?
I do, yes.
And what do they mean?
Laughing my ass off on my mama, but shit, what's the word?
And how about the next message?
Devin sends a message to Jadizi at 11:07 p.m. on the night of the 16th. You can get car and shit first.
And how about the next one?
Same date, same timestamp at 11:07 p.m. 2 laughing emojis Devin sent to Jadizi.
And the next one?
Jadizi responds at 11:07 p.m. You telling me she don't got no friend or nothing with laughing emojis.
And the next message?
Devin responds to Jadizi at 11:07. LMAO, that's what I asked. And she was like, she not with none of them.
And how about the next one?
Devin then responds again to Jadizi at 11:08 p.m. She wanted me to come beat, but I'm not on wheels. And she was like, since she want to fuck me so bad, she'll fuck whoever I'm with too.
And what's the next message?
Jadizi responds to Devin at 11:10 p.m. Damn, she a eater FS with laughing emojis.
Do you know what FS means?
Yes, it means for sure.
Oh my God. You see why I was like so uncomfortable about this part. Can you imagine though? This ain't about me. It ain't about us. Can you imagine her parents hearing this or his family hearing this? Can you imagine being the officer having to read this in front of them? I feel bad for them too. Tess said, dang, I feel bad for Lyric's parents. And I was thinking yesterday when I first heard this, I hope and pray they gave them some sort of warning about this before it was read out. Even maybe, hey, maybe this part of the testimony, you guys should go get something to eat or, take a walk for a minute and just, it's probably a little much for you guys. They could say, hey, I want to hear it all, but I hope that they warned them. I really, really do.
And what's the next message?
Devin responds back. That's what I'm saying, and I'm trying to get 8 at 11:11 p.m. with a laughing emoji.
And the next one?
Devin responds or sends another message to Jadizi at 11:12 p.m. on the same date. So WTW, laughing emojis, which indicates what's the word.
And does Jadizi respond?
He does at 11:23 p.m.
And what does it say?
It depends on where she CS. I don't got no gas. Maybe a crying emoji.
Do you know what CS means?
I do not.
And then is there, well, what does the next message say?
Devin sends another message at 1:05 a.m. with 2 laughing emojis to Jadizi.
So it jumped from 11:23 p.m. to 1:05 a.m.
That's correct.
And then were there any other messages between the two of them that evening?
No.
Were you ever able to determine who Jadizi is?
I was not.
Were there any other messages that Devin sent that night?
There was.
Wait, what? So Jadizi wasn't Isaiah? I'm confused there. They couldn't prove it, I guess, but it sounds like it might be. I'm confused. I didn't hear that last night. See what I mean? I was in an emotional state. I wasn't absorbing everything that I should have. What the hell? I'm so lost now. So who was?
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Sergeant Goodwin, I'll show you what I marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 133 and ask you if you recognize it.
I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 133?
It is a group chat with 11 individuals with several messages back and forth.
And is that also from the Snapchat return?
It is, yes.
And looking at the first message there, who sent that message?
Devin.
And what time was that?
It shows 9/17/2022 at 4:46 with 14 seconds a.m.
And is that in UTC or Eastern time?
That's in UTC.
So what would that be in Eastern time?
12:46 a.m.
Your Honor, this time I would move State's Exhibit 133.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
States 133 will be admitted.
And what message does Devin send at that time?
He ats the name POURTRIS, you on wheels, question mark, at on 9/17 at 12:46 a.m.
And do you have an opinion about what he was asking?
Yes, he was asking somebody for a ride.
And what's the next message there?
Kim,
Devin sends a
you just wait because we're about to hear what Isaiah told his friend, what happened, which I'll give you a slight little, like a little bit of information. So he tells his friend Isaiah's story to one of his friends who goes to police the day after the kids are found. I mean, he immediately goes to police about this. He says that they were in the car and Devin was, well, he describes it. I don't think he flat out said in the car, but the guy thought he meant in the car because the way he's describing it, he says Devin was pointing the laser off of his gun at him, just joking around. And he kept telling him, stop doing that, stop doing that. When they started fighting over the gun and he ends up shooting and killing him. And then he said he turns around and shot Lyric because she saw it all. She saw what happened. Now that story doesn't actually make sense based on the evidence, right? A lot of the blood splatter was outside and they were shot in their backs and bottom of the feet. So I don't know, but that is what he claimed to his friend. And his friend, you know, it seems that it may have been more than friends. They had him and this guy had some sexual activity as well, according to the friend. So it's a whole mess. We're going to hear that after this. I think instead of going back to the forensics right after this guy, I might as well play him and the friend from yesterday, because I don't know that everything else will make sense if we don't hear yesterday's before today's. It just sucks because we're like behind like this, and I wanted to do it real time, like just a little bit behind so we could skip the breaks but still be like kind of doing it live.
another message to the group on 9/17 at 12:47 a.m.
Really?
Who on wheels and want free buns?
Do you have an opinion about what that means?
I do.
And what's that?
He is essentially offering up sex for anybody that can give him a ride.
And what's the next message?
Devin sends another message 9/17 at 12:47 a.m. basically with 3 laughing emojis.
He says basically, or
Sends another message, is essentially offering up 12:47 a.m. Yes, he was asking somebody for a ride.
And-
IS, you on wheels, question mark, on 9/17 at 12:46 a.m.
and do you have an opinion about what he was asking?
Yes, he was asking somebody for a ride.
And what's the next message there?
Devin sends another message to the group on 9/17 at 12:47 a.m. Who on wheels and want free buns?
Do you have an opinion about what that means?
I do.
And what's that?
He is essentially offering up sex for anybody that can give him a ride.
And what's the next message?
Devin sends another message 9:17 at 12:47 a.m. basically with 3 laughing emojis.
He says basically, or does the message actually say basically?
Yes.
Other than what we've just walked through, did you find any other messages that Devin sent that night?
No.
I want to shift gears a little bit to the back to Monday, the 19th. At some point, did you receive information from Captain Ray?
I did, yes.
And what information did you receive?
He had spoken to an individual by the name of Christian Sykes, who talked on the phone, said that
Here
Mr.
we
Ross had
go.
confessed to him about what had taken place and provided a phone number for Mr. Ross.
And
But
what was
he
that number?
testifies next.
Area code 908
This is the guy.
440 5523.
But it'll be a minute before we get
What,
to
if
him.
any, steps did you all take with that information during your investigation?
And a database that we have that's available to us in law enforcement, plug that telephone number in to see who it comes back to. It come back to Mr. Ross as it had been used by him before for whatever reason, and an address of 309 Moore Road in Mebane, which was the address of Antoine Bryant.
And what happened next in your investigation?
Several investigators went to Antoine's house, not knowing if Mr. Ross would be there or not. Made contact with Mr. Bryant, who then decided he would come down to the office for an interview. And other investigators went to Deerfield Trace, where Mr. Ross's mother lived, as that was also an address listed in the database.
And what, if any, part did you have in that, in what happened next?
I interviewed Mr. Bryant at the sheriff's office.
And were you then informed of anything that was discovered at Deerfield Trace?
Yes,
What was that?
they had located Mr. Ross's mother's vehicle in question that had damage to the right front fender.
And at some point, were you informed that that vehicle was being seized?
Yes, I was.
And what were the next steps that you took?
Completed a search warrant for the vehicle, and later that evening it was executed.
Were you there?
I was, yes.
And who else was with you?
Investigator Baldwin, Investigator Hendricks, and Investigator Vila.
What, if any, observations did you make about the vehicle?
Initially, looking at the outside, obviously, Investigator Baldwin was taking his photos, but on the outside front right fender above the tire, I noticed what appeared to be small spots of blood, what appeared to be blood. Those were obviously marked as key pieces of evidence. Once Investigator Baldwin finished taking his photos on the outside and the inside, utilizing gloves and stuff, flashlight, there was a couple of brown stains that appeared on the driver's side and passenger side by where the legs go down under the center console. That I pointed out. I noticed in the back hatch area of the GMC Terrain, there was a booster seat that it was just upside down, not in any like particular order. There was a can of Pringles that had been opened, and the Pringle chips were all over the back of the hatch or the back area. And there was also a bottle or a container of Armor All wipes where the lid was still open.
And were you present throughout the processing of the vehicle?
I was, yes.
Were you present when the luminol testing was completed?
I was, yes.
Can you describe that process?
As Investigator Baldwin testified, he put on protective gear, head to toe, to move the vehicle from inside of our Sally Port at the jail down behind the detention facility where it was complete darkness. Then we utilized a tarp over top. We utilized a tarp over top to have complete darkness inside. And after the collection of evidence on the outside of the vehicle inside the Sally Port, he sprayed luminol on the areas that we believed to have been blood at the time, and it lit up as he said it, as he described that it would in the very bright color. After doing the spots on the outside of the vehicle, we moved to the inside of the vehicle, and as he described, not being able to get a picture of it, the dome light, the handprint was very, very prominent, to the point where it looked as if the light was trying to be covered up in complete darkness to not be seen by passing cars, anybody else around the area.
Did you have anything else to do with the processing of that vehicle?
I did.
What was that?
I did a search warrant for the infotainment center, which is the brains inside of the like radio area. That connects to
Oh,
Bluetooth.
Hold on. This word is familiar to me. When I was recently investigated for killing a woman and driving off, hitting her with my car, the infotainment proved my innocence. And the detective told me that, like, these things are, like, it's crazy what they can get. They can get if someone was sitting in the passenger seat, if someone was sitting in the back seat, any phone that was connected, they can get any messages that were sent on that phone ever. They can get how fast you were going, what direction you were going, when your lights turned on, when your headlights turned on, where exactly. They can pinpoint on a map every step that your car, every inch it's driven, as the car is like near or newer than 2018. It's unbelievable what they can get from these infotainment systems or whatever.
All those kind of things.
And why did you do that?
To see if there was any data located, if anybody that was present in the vehicle that night would have had their phones
Oh my
connected to
gosh,
the
wait a
Bluetooth.
minute. MK. I was going to say I have to pause to say hello to you, and we miss you so much, and I hope you're doing okay. And thank you. That was super sweet. You didn't have to do that. Just coming by and gracing us with your presence would have been enough. But thank you, MK. Thank you so much. That was really sweet. Anybody who has a membership, if you want to join the Discord, you either have to have a membership here or on the Patreon. We are going to watch the Wade Wilson documentary this weekend in there. Maybe one episode at a time. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but that is one of the things we're going to do this weekend. So yeah, if you got a membership and you're interested, send me an email. And thank you again, MK. And I hope you're doing okay. And whatever's keeping you away is a good thing, not a bad thing, not a stressful thing.
To give any type of identifying information.
And did you ever receive any information from that?
I did not.
In the early stages of your investigation, did you obtain a cell phone number for Devin Clark?
I did.
And where did that number come from?
Lieutenant Hunter provided me that number, who got it from Devin's mother, Tiffany.
And what was the number?
743-244-0344.
And what, if anything, did you do with that information?
I determined what carrier that number belonged to, and found it to be Verizon.
How do you determine what carrier a number belongs to?
We have a database that we can plug in the cell phone number, and it'll tell us any type of identifying information, who's registered to that number, and then who the carrier is.
And why did you take that step?
To try and obtain historical records, any type of communication that may be available for the early morning hours of 9/17 through 9/18, because when we got there that afternoon of the 18th, Devin was not in possession of his cell phone. And I knew that, according to the dad, during my conversations with him, that Devin always had his phone with him.
And how do you obtain those records from the carrier?
I sent in a search warrant for the historical records.
And did you receive a return from Verizon?
I did, yes.
Did you also follow up on the phone number that Christian Sykes had provided for Isaiah?
I did, yes.
And what did you do with that information?
The same thing I did for Devin's. I determined what carrier it belonged to, found that it was a T-Mobile number. So I sent in a search warrant to T-Mobile for the historical records on that device as well as completing a court order pin, trap, and trace to get geolocation data every 15 minutes, actively every 15 minutes during the course of the investigation.
Madam DA, might be a good spot to take a quick break.
Certainly, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the point we've taken our morning recess. I know it's been 3 whole days since you've seen me, but I'm assuming you remember all of the rules that I've told you about. So please remember those rules. Everybody else will please remain seated. That's the drink.
Not quite yet, Your Honor. Thank you. Investigator Goodwin, can you describe what you saw on the Petra video?
Yes, so
Been authenticated by affidavit as business records. Number 3, the parties further stipulate that the phone number 743-244-0344 belonged. The state and the defendant have entered the following stipulation. 1, historical cell site location information and subscriber information for phone number 743-244.
MK, I'm so serious. It was such a stressful holiday season this year. I made a live on it as soon as I was cleared. But so if you got time, go listen to my live. It's just like a couple lives back. You'll see, because in the thumbnail, I'm on a wanted poster. But yeah, MK, send me an email, and I hope you're doing okay. And please don't be a stranger. We miss you. But yeah, okay, Lisa, awesome. I will get in my emails today. I'll respond to anybody that I need to respond to about other stuff, and I'll make sure anybody that needs the Discord links gets those. So yeah. All right, here we go.
3,
I just wanted to say that before MK left, because he said you were leaving soon, and I'm like, dude, you need to know this happened. It's been crazy. Where you been? You leaving has knocked everything out of order, and now the universe is going crazy. Come back.
44.
I'm just kidding.
These records are business records and have been authenticated by affidavit as business records. Number 3, the parties further stipulate that the phone number 743-244-0344 belonged to Devin Clark. The next stipulation from the state of North Carolina through the assistant district attorney, the state and the defendant have agreed and stipulate 1, historical cell site location information and subscriber information for the phone number 908-440-5523. 2, these records are business records. They have been authenticated by affidavit. Number 3, the parties further stipulate that the number 908-440-5523 belonged to the defendant at the relevant time. Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant Goodwin, once you received those records from Verizon and T-Mobile, did you do anything else with them?
I did, yes, ma'am.
And what was that?
Once I received the records for both devices, telephone numbers, I contacted Harrison Putman with the FBI, who is on their CAS team.
And do you know if Mr. Putman reviewed those records?
He did, yes.
And did he generate a report?
He did, yes.
When did you take out charges against the defendant?
Tuesday, September 20th, 2022, I obtained 2 juvenile petitions for 1 count each of first-degree murder for the deaths of Devin Clark and Lyric Woods. Mr. Ross was then entered into NCIC, which is a national database, wanted for the 2 counts of murder with full extradition.
When Isaiah was charged with murder, he was 17 years old. This is why they created Lyric and Devin's Law, because they couldn't share his face and name because he was a minor. So now if you're charged with something like that, they can damn sure share your face and name. Also, hey, Titanium says, still listening, just cleaning. For the people who are listening and not watching chat, you just heard them stipulate to a few facts. Stipulation is just a way for both sides to agree on something and make it admissible without having to call witnesses to testify to save time. It's just basically both sides agreeing that this is a fact. So both sides stipulated this phone number was Devin's number. Both sides stipulated things like that. You know what I mean? So we've heard it multiple times. So just so you know at home, see what I mean? We learn a lot watching trials. You really, really do. So I think anybody who follows true crime avidly or covers it like normally should watch not every trial, but watch a couple trials. You know what I mean? Because you learn so much. Every time we watch one, I learn something. And I used to not watch trials. I used to just watch like documentaries and sometimes join the live chats once I found YouTube. But once I started following a case from start to finish, watching all the facts, that you learn at trial and how they differ so much from what you think at the beginning and all the rumors on social media. I highly recommend it to anybody, which if you're here now, you're watching trials. You're not who needs to hear this. But you know what I mean? It's really important in my opinion.
Sergeant Goodwin, did you have an opportunity to review any surveillance video in connection with this case?
I did, yes, ma'am.
And where was that from?
The petrol gas station located at 500 Buckhorn Road in Mebane.
Can you describe where the Petro is in reference to where the bodies were found?
The Petro is approximately 2 miles north on Buckhorn Road from where the bodies were discovered.
So approximately how long would it take to drive there?
Give or take 5 minutes.
And what time frame did you gather for the Petro video?
I will remember between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. on the morning of 9/17/2022.
And did you observe anything relevant on the Petro video during that time frame?
I did, yes, ma'am.
This is interesting.
Your Honor, this will be State's Exhibit 138, the Petro video by stipulation.
You moving that into evidence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
States 138 would be omitted.
And I have the stipulation for the court.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, state through the Assistant District Attorney presents that the state and the defendant have entered into the following stipulation. Investigators with the Orange County Sheriff's Office obtained surveillance video from the Petro Travel Center located at 500 Buckhorn Road here in Mebane, or in Mebane, excuse me, we're not actually in Mebane. 2, the surveillance video obtained by law enforcement is relevant to this trial and is not otherwise inadmissible. And 3, without objection, the state introduced the video as State's Exhibit number 138 without need for further authentication. Ms. Orr?
Thank you, Your Honor. And I've discussed this with Mr. Trapp, but because this video takes quite a long time to load via disk, I've put an exact copy on my desktop and I have it open and ready to play.
If there's any problems with that, Mr. Trapp, please let me know.
No, Your Honor, for efficiency's sake, I think this is the best way to do it.
Would you like to publish that to the jury?
Not quite yet, Your Honor. Thank you. Investigator Goodwin, can you describe what you saw on the Petro video?
Yeah, so it should be noted that the video was off. The video timestamp was 2:11 to 2:19 around the time that we got here. I observed, upon viewing the video, I observed a white GMC Terrain traveling north on Buckhorn Road enter the parking lot from the far east side. It'd been the first entrance of coming north on Buckhorn. Car pulls around initially to the far east side gas pumps. Mr. Ross gets out, realizes that the gas tank is on the opposite side of the vehicle. He then drives around from the far east to the next one over, where you can see in the video the vehicle strikes the concrete post. You can see the vehicle jolt back and forth. After several attempts of backing up and pulling forward, Mr. Ross finally gets to a gas pump, and it's where he's seen exiting the vehicle and walking up to the window to pay.
And in reviewing this video as compared with the other evidence in the case, does it appear that the timestamp on the video is accurate?
When compared, so no, it does not. When compared with the cell phone data, historical data that we got back, the video appears to be 10 minutes slow. So 2:11 in the video would actually be 2:21.
And in your experience, have you encountered store surveillance video that reflects the incorrect timestamp previously?
All the time.
Your Honor, now this time I would ask to publish a portion of this State's 138 to the jury.
All right, just give us a time frame.
Yes, Your Honor. The timestamp on the video where I will start it is 9/17/2022. The timestamp on the video is 2/11/33.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to make it bigger because I watched on my phone and I want to see if on the computer I can notice the
Start the
blood
video
stain
to
on the front of the car. I doubt it, but because, yeah, I just doubt it, but there he is, the driver's side. You see him here. He pulls up to the gas pump, if you can see my mouse. But he realizes that's the wrong side, like the officer said. Officer good looking, I mean good one. I'm only human, guys. I'm sorry. Oh, now here he comes. Is when he's going to hit the pole. Boom. Idiot. I know he's only 17 and he's a kid, but also he's an evil little kid, so I can call him an idiot. Have you never drove before, dude? I hit a pump when I was a kid, too. I hit this little half circle thing that blocks the pump, which is what I think he hit. Can't see anything, but you will see him get out and walk in. Let's watch him again. Oh, you couldn't see. I was circling it on the wrong screen. I'm gonna slow it down real slow right here just for a second. And you 25. He had his hair dyed blonde at the time. I slowed down the first time because he's going to say what he thinks he had the first time he comes up in just a moment. Kim says he's probably freaking out. This is after he killed them, right? Yes. Right after. Like immediately after, just a couple minutes. You'll see, Coffee, what the officer thinks. That's pretty much it. All right, come on now, court.
For the record, I have stopped the video at timestamp
Thank you.
2:19:56. And Sergeant Goodwin, the first time that Isaiah, well, let me ask you this first. The person depicted on this video has blonde hair.
Correct.
Can you describe how you identified this person as the defendant?
Based off of the information that was obtained from Christian and social media.
And when he's approaching the camera the first time, what, if anything, do you notice he's holding or carrying?
So through my training and experience, past investigations that I've completed, surveillance that I've been on when I was with the task force, the mannerisms of him as he is walking up to the window are indicative of him possessing a firearm and concealing it in his front jacket pocket.
Sustained.
I actually asked about the first time he was approaching, before he turned around and went back to the vehicle. What, if anything, did you notice in his
Sorry,
hand?
he had a cell phone in his hand.
The direction that the vehicle was seen exiting from the gas station, where does that go?
It goes back out on the Buckhorn Road.
Jumping ahead, or switching subjects, did you have an opportunity to review the ring camera footage that Ms. Cordero provided to Investigator Borland?
Yes, I did.
We can take that down now. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk. Thank you. And what, if anything, did you observe about that footage?
I determined that it was on the morning of the 16th, that Friday, and it was not relevant to this investigation.
Did you take any steps to obtain ring footage for the correct time frame?
I did, yes.
And what was that?
Obtained a search warrant from Ring or to Ring for the dates of September 16th through September 19th.
And did you obtain any response to your search warrant?
No, they indicated that they were not able to locate responsive records for the identifiers referenced in the legal process and that no videos were available for the date and time requested.
Jumping ahead again, and Sergeant Goodwin, to October 5th of 2022. On that day, did you receive any information relevant to this investigation?
I did, yes.
What was that?
I had been, since obtaining the juvenile petitions on Mr. Ross, knowing that he had went to Delaware based off of historical phone records. I was in communication with a task force officer with the FBI in Delaware, who was also employed by the Delaware State Police. They had been conducting surveillance on various locations in Delaware known to Isaiah, and he informed me that during their investigation for the apprehension, Mr. Ross was taken into custody at his sister's apartment.
And Did it take some time for Mr. Ross to get back to North Carolina?
Yes.
About how long?
I want to say sometime around October the 18th, 2022, maybe a couple days before that.
And jumping ahead to that date, the October 18th, did you obtain DNA swabs from Mr. Ross?
I did, yes.
And why did you do that?
I obtained 2 sets of buccal swabs from Mr. Ross for comparison purposes with the evidence that we had collected throughout the case.
And are you trained to conduct or collect such samples?
Yes.
And can you describe for the jury how that works?
So as Investigator Baldwin explained, with any type of collection of evidence, you always put gloves on first. Then you take what appears to be an extended Q-tip with only cotton on one end. You take 2, swab the inside of the right cheek, approximately 7 seconds, and you place it into a rectangular box to be packaged into an evidence envelope. You do the same thing with 2 more additional swabs for the left cheek. Then you do the same, put it in the rectangular box, put it into a evidence envelope, and then seal it.
And did you complete that entire process for Mr. Ross's swabs?
I did, yes.
And what did you do with the items once you collected them?
I submitted them to our evidence technician, Investigator Baldwin.
Can I have just one moment, Your Honor? First witness.
Yes, ma'am.
Sergeant Goodwin, I'll show you what I've marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 139 and 140 and ask if you recognize these items.
I do, yes.
And how do you recognize them?
It's got my handwriting, it's got my name as the collecting officer, and then when I sealed it on the back, it's got my initials with the date above and below the seal.
And do those appear to be in the same or similar condition as when you sealed them?
They do, yes.
And what is contained within State's Exhibits 139 and 140?
2 buccal swabs from the right cheek and 2 buccal swabs from the left cheek of Mr. Ross.
Your Honor, this time I would move State's Exhibits 139 and 140 into evidence.
No objection, Judge.
States 139 and 140 will be admitted.
Just want to pause for a second to give you guys a little bit of news, true crime news that's happening right now. I was trying to kind of follow on my phone while we're watching. Hey, Hako. So apparently, you know, the Idaho 4 crime scene photos that were released last time, the families started a lawsuit because they don't want pictures of their kids released or any of their rooms or any of their blood and stuff, right? They just don't want that stuff out there. The other stuff they don't care about. They actually want people to go through all the evidence besides that. Well, it looks like yesterday, Idaho State Police released photos that included a photo of Xana. It didn't show all of her, but there were very graphic photos included. They've now taken them down. The families are very upset. And I would be too, because hello, it's known that this has already become a thing. And I'm pretty sure the court made the decision that they wouldn't release any photos that showed the kids. But they did. So they did take them down. They're not available now to get, but you know how the internet is. It only has to be up for 5 minutes and there will be so many copies. I don't know. I find that really unfortunate. And I wanted to let you guys know I got on my phone actually to go outside and smoke, but I'll follow with you guys in the chat. And I saw a short from Brian Enton that described some of this. So then I went to Reddit and just to see what people were saying. And yeah, they said that they're now down and stuff, but I'm sure people have gotten copies. But anyway, wanted to let you guys know. It was a real
Sergeant
picture,
Goodwin, at some
yeah,
point later in your
from the
investigation, did
Idaho
you
State
go with
Police.
Investigator Baldwin to collect a hair sample from Mr. Ross?
I did, yes.
And why did you do that?
We had received information from the hair expert at the, they had located a hair and needed a comparison from Mr. Ross related to this investigation.
And were you present when that sample was collected?
I was, yes.
Were you present when that sample was packaged by Investigator Baldwin?
Yes, I was.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'll show you what I've marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 141 and ask you if you recognize it.
Yes, I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 141?
It is the full-length head hairs that Mr. Ross pulled himself on the execution of a search warrant.
And does that appear to be in the same or similar condition as when you last saw it?
Yes, it was packaged and sealed by Investigator Baldwin.
And was that done in your presence?
Yes, it was.
All right, this time I would move State's 141 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
States 141 will be admitted.
If I could have just one moment, Your Honor. I believe those are all the questions I have for Investigator Baldwin at this, Sergeant Goodwin at this time. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Yes, please.
Sergeant good looking, you mean? He's not even that good looking,
And
but
Sergeant
there's something
Goodwin.
about
I may call you
his
investigator, so I apologize. All right.
vibes that I like.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Here we
So
go.
We're working.
Now I'm here to let y'all know. Jonathan Trapp loves to ask the same questions over and over. He likes to get the same, maybe he's trying to trap him and something. It can be very, 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 very maddening to listen to him. So hopefully we don't get too upset. Now, after this, immediately after, is Christian Sykes. That's the friend who, he told everything. That's the friend who Isaiah confessed to. My brain's not working. Here we go.
Working on this case starting out September the 18th, 2022. Is that right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
You mentioned you went to the crime scene. You didn't actually locate evidence, but you saw that it had been marked and you kind of looked around and recognized where they were placed. Is that right?
That's right.
I think you even mentioned that later on in your testimony, when you went to Dexter Clark's house, that you could see the similarity between the bullets that he had in his box at his home in that bullet box and the shell casings that were found on scene. Is that right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And so early on, before you had gotten notifications from the lab or any microscopic comparison, you saw the similarity. Is that right?
I didn't see the similarities from the strike of the primer. I saw the make, caliber that was on the back of the shell casing where it said 9mm, Remington, RP, whatever those things were.
And I didn't mean to imply that you were able to see what a microscope can see, but you, with your, training and experience and naked eye, could see that there was a similar kind of color make of the bullets you found on the scene off of Buckhorn Road and the bullets that you found when you left Mr. Clark's house. Is that right?
That is correct.
And how you being that you are a sergeant, you have had a lot of experience shooting firearms. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
With training and testing and qualifying, so on and so forth?
Yes, sir.
And also in your investigations of other homicides and assaults and things like that, you've had a chance to look at different shell casings and placements, so on and so forth. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, you went to Mr. Clark's house, we'll say, was it the 19th or the 20th, shortly thereafter?
No, it was the same night of the bodies being discovered.
All right, so on the 18th.
Correct.
Okay. And at some point, did you make a determination or think or ponder that the shell casings that you found at Buckhorn Road came from Mr. Clark's gun?
It was an assumption that I had, but I couldn't prove one way or the other because we didn't have a firearm.
Right. And you're not a scientist, and there are a lot of other things that are out of place, but that was kind of a working theory, at least at that point. Is that
Correct.
fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Now, the next day on the 19th, you mentioned that you had a meeting with the FBI task force. That was early in the morning of the 19th. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And after that meeting, you then began to, put together these search warrants for different entities to get more information. Is that right?
Correct.
And one of those was for Snapchat.
That's correct.
And when you made a request for Snapchat, you made a request for both Lyric Snapchat, which you had from her iPad. Is that right?
That's correct.
And for another Snapchat handle who you didn't, at least at that time, know who it belonged to.
That's correct. Yes.
So the identity of the basketball Snapchat handle, was that made after you got your information back from Snapchat, or was that given to you at a later date from another individual? Does that make sense? Okay. Did you understand that that Snapchat for Mr. Basketball, I don't have it right in front of me. When did you identify that that belonged to Devin Clark?
I think it was after several, I can't remember the exact date right offhand, but talking to people, talking to Lyric's family, talking to friends of Devin, I think it was at that point determined like this is his Snapchat account. And so we went with that.
And so when you were going through, eventually you found out that who that Snapchat belonged to. You got the return from Snapchat to get the information that we heard, and we'll talk about that in a second. But then there was a question raised to you about the individual that Devin was talking to, not when he was talking to Lyric, not when he was talking in the group chat, but the longer message. Did you go through the same process to determine who that individual is? And I believe his name, the Snapchat handle was JAHDEEZYYY.
No, I did not.
And did you go through the same methods and channels of talking with Lyric's family or talking to Devin's family and or friends to figure out who this individual is?
I did not because he indicated on the 16th at 11:23 p.m. that he didn't have any gas. And so knowing that he didn't have gas and then another message being sent at 1:05 a.m., I knew that he wasn't the one that went and picked anybody up.
But in your investigation, just getting a better idea of what was going on that night, if he had any further conversations with Devin, even after or outside of this, that was never followed up on. Is that right?
I knew there was no other conversations had because Devin was deceased.
Well, there was a span of time of almost 2 hours between one message between Jadizzi and what we've later found out was Devin's. And so there was like 2 hours. So you can't be certain of what isn't there, what conversations they had, because they could have talked in a different platform. Is that correct?
That's feasible, but when I got these returns back, the investigation had already gone on for several months. So this wasn't something that I had the 19th or the 20th or the 21st. This is things that I got I'm not gonna say a long time. I don't know the exact date of the return, but by that point, I'd already identified Mr. Ross. They were obviously already found deceased, so there was no need, knowing that what we had was what we had, that Mr. Jadizzi wasn't involved.
All right, but long and short is because your investigation went one direction,
Interesting.
you stopped even looking to see who this individual was. Is
I
that
didn't
correct?
think it was relevant at the time.
So that wasn't
Now-
Isaiah at all. That was just some random person. They don't know who it is. It could have been. Well, he says, since he said he had no gas, he didn't think that. I don't know. It's interesting though. But I guess it's to show what Devin was saying to get a ride.
You had a
don't
chance
know.
to read through some of the messages that were exchanged that night of Friday, September 16th, going into the 17th. I don't know if you still have those messages in front of you. Now, first, you mentioned you got these messages sometime later,
Correct.
but you had access to the messages on Lyric's iPad fairly quickly. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And so from the onset of the investigation, you could see that Lyric was providing direction to this basketball _1296 to come to her residence. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And she was even providing kind of details once he got there as to where to go. I think one of the statements was parked there, almost as if she could see the car pulling up. Is that what you got from that message?
Not exactly. I think the screenshot of the location with the circle is sent. Well, all the messages except the very first one is all sent at the same time. So I think it's fair to say that once the screenshot was sent of the location of where to park, I think she was indicating where the circle is to park there.
Okay. But she was giving some kind of identification, park there. But then she goes on further, and we'll talk about timestamps. So the map that we talked about that was circled, that was sent at UTC time, 5/22/31, but Eastern Standard Time, that would be 1/22/31. Is that about right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. But then at 5/22 UTC time, 1/22/38 our time, she went on to say, like, on the side of the road on that side. So you mentioned these are kind of all coming at the same time, but all these are kind of streaming within almost a minute of each other. Is that about right?
Yes, sir.
And then she gives further direction about cutting the lights off when they arrive. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's what I testified to.
Okay. And she even goes further to say, pretty much, keep the lights off until I get into the car.
Correct.
And so early on in this investigation, you could surmise that she was sneaking out and was hoping not to be detected when she got out the house. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you didn't, as you just testified, get the information from Devin's Snapchat until months later, year later?
Without looking at the hard copy, I can't say when I got it. I don't recall any of that.
But it was sometime later after you had already charged Mr. Ross.
That's correct.
But as you are in a case, you're an experienced investigator, you're always kind of looking and seeking for information, looking at details to fit them together. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so once you finally got a chance to get Devin's Snapchat information, you were able to further your idea of what was going on that night. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so based on what you got from Devin's Snapchat, you could see that he was trying to orchestrate a way to meet up with Lyric that night. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And it's your understanding based on the comments in this Snapchat that he was looking to meet up with Lyric to have sex with her. Is that right?
Some sort of sexual activity. Yes, I can't say for certain that it was sex, but I would say some form of sexual activity.
Well, you had, when you were giving your descriptions of some of this language in here, it sounded like some sexual act. It's not for sure, but you even talked about oral sex as a possible description of what is in this Snapchat. Is that right?
Correct.
And it went as far as saying that she not only wanted to have sex with Devin, but with whoever Devin was with. Is that correct?
Well, at face value, I can't say that that's what she said, but that's what the message that Devin sent to Jadizi said.
That's correct, because we don't have any further communication from Lyric about this interaction. Is that right?
Correct.
And this individual who we don't know at this time would have been interested and would have been involved, but from the conversation, he didn't have gas. Now,
I think he was confident at that point because it was so far into the investigation. They had the confession and all the other evidence that led to, you know what I mean? The more he talks, the more I like him.
that could mean he literally didn't have gas in his car, or he didn't have a car to drive. We don't know.
Correct.
And this conversation that Devin was having was carried over from
Right. That's
this
just
direct
what he
individual
said.
to a group chat. And I think there were
Neat.
11 people in that group chat.
Yes, that's correct.
Were you able to identify who those 11 people were in the group chat?
I did not know.
You mentioned that in your experience with Snapchat, that messages are deleted or disappeared. Is that correct?
Yes, that's how the app, I guess, works, or that's what they advertise is how it works, is that after a certain amount of time, the content, whether it's a message or a picture, deletes itself and it's no longer there. So sending a search warrant, you're literally sending up a prayer because you don't know what you're going to get. It could be a whole lot or it could be nothing.
But in this instance, there are no search warrants in reference to these other 11 individuals and what conversations were had that night about what was going to happen or had happened.
No, because like I said, this was all obtained months later after Mr. Ross had been charged.
And when you were going through Devin's Snapchat, there was at least one response that you could find that was relevant, talking about you got wheels, free buns.
Yes, I recall reading that.
Okay. And you interpreted that as if you have a ride that you can have sex. How did you interpret that one?
For that particular one, yes, I
Why?
would say that was offering.
See what I mean? He's just asking the same exact question. We literally already went over this. Exactly. You know what I mean? I don't understand. He read that message. Okay, you got to just like twist the knife. He already said what he interpreted it as. Come on, man.
He would have been offering, if you have a ride, then I've got someone that will have sex. Yes.
I think it just
But there
took
was
time to get the
no-
messages back. They probably were requested in a warrant in the beginning, but we saw search warrants coming back in Koberger's case months and months later too, from different because they had to do a subpoena to Snapchat.
Location information or any other kind of identifying information about
For
who was
Devon's,
gonna do
I'm
what
sure.
from that after that message. Is that right?
Not in the thread that I have, no.
And you didn't see any other responses from anyone else in that thread that night?
I did not.
Now, after
You
had a
already
chance
said
to,
that
I
it's
guess,
Snapchat. You
see
can't
search
retrieve
warrants,
them all.
you then
God.
interviewed Mr. Bryant, maybe the following day or something like that, or maybe the same day on the 19th.
I would have interviewed Mr. Bryant on that Tuesday or Wednesday. If you give me a second, I can look at my report if you need it.
Yes, please. Take your time.
So it appears that he come down to the sheriff's office on the 19th.
And your reason for meeting with Mr. Bryant was because you had got information that Mr. Ross was at his home.
That's correct.
And when he came to interview you, obviously this has been a while ago,
Mhm.
do you recall his demeanor?
Without going back and looking at the interview, I can't say that he appeared to be calm, just like he was when he testified. I can't say that he was agitated or amped up, if you will.
Okay. And when you met with him, he provided you with information that Mr. Ross was at his house, right?
Correct.
He gave you information that he at one point was dating Mr. Ross's mother, right?
Correct.
He even told you that Mr. Ross lived with him for some time.
Correct.
And he told you that Mr. Ross was asked to leave his mother's home. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. And he was asked to leave his mother's home by his mother. Is that right?
Yes.
And that she asked him, or told him rather, to go stay with his father. Is that right?
Best I can remember, yes.
Now, after you spoke with Mr. Bryant,
Hey, Karen.
did he mention to you that Mr. Ross had left some things behind?
He did, yes, sir.
And what were those things?
I
there
know,
was some type
Kim.
of
It's the defense
camouflage
attorney.
bag
Yeah,
and a pink
he
sweatshirt
is.
that he indicated was Mr. Ross's.
Mm-mm-mm.
And were those items taken into evidence?
Yes, sir, they were.
And those items, were they found in the residence of Mr. Bryant? Were they found somewhere else? Like, do you recall where they came from?
Yes, I retrieved them from his vehicle in the parking lot of the sheriff's office after we completed our interview.
Were you made aware of kind of like the interaction at Mr. Bryant's house when his son was in the car?
I was not aware of that interaction until he testified to it last week.
Were you told that a consent search was done of his residence and outside his residence prior to meeting with you?
Yes.
Any idea why those items weren't recovered or presented at that time?
I don't know. That'd be a question he can answer. I wasn't there for the consent search, so I don't know what was there or what wasn't.
When speaking with Mr. Bryant, he didn't make any mention that he saw any evidence of suspected blood,
See how
or
much
a
more we have
firearm, or
of
anything like
this.
that would relate to this case.
No, he didn't, but he did bring up that Ms. Cordero made a comment to him when he went over to the house or to the apartment that the booster seat not being in the rear passenger area anymore, that it had been moved to the very back.
Right.
That stood out to me.
A booster seat not being in the back seat stood out to you because it's uncommon for booster seats to be in the trunk?
No, that just means that, well, as I testified earlier, that the position of the booster seat, I don't just throw things over the back. I usually tend to place things where they belong. And then on top of that, with the Pringle cans, that Pringles were discarded everywhere, and then the Armor All bottle with open lid with wipes, all that. After obtaining that information,
We got like 15
that's what
minutes
stood
of
out to
him left, if that.
At some point,
Sped up.
the vehicle at Miss Cordero's home, the white GMC Terrain, was taken to the Sally Port,
that's correct.
and you were present when that occurred, right? While it was there being searched.
Yes,
You may not have physically actually seen it driven there by the tow truck, but when you were there, it was prior to the search beginning. Is that fair to say?
it would have arrived prior to the search. Oh,
You got there before they actually started the search process.
yes, because I'm the one that had the search warrant.
And you mentioned that you saw red spots on maybe the front right passenger of the vehicle that you suspected to be blood.
That's correct.
You also mentioned that you saw some brown stains by the center console. So you're referring to the inside of the car?
Yes, sir.
And those, did you yourself kind of spot those? Did Investigator Baldwin spot them? Do you recall?
I know we were both looking for items of evidence. I can't recall because there was multiple spots that we observed. I can't say for certain that the one on the passenger side is the one he found and the one on the driver's side is what I found, vice versa. It's just,
But it's your understanding that because you noticed these brown spots that were near the center console, that it was of evidentiary importance and maybe a DNA swab or something was taken from that location.
DNA was taken from there. Yes, sir.
And from your recollection, I know Investigator Baldwin testified to this, the door handles were tested. I think you mentioned there was something seen in the ceiling. That was all tested. Is that correct?
Yes, Investigator Baldwin would have tested or swabbed all of those for testing. Yes.
And you mentioned that the Sally Port had to get really dark in order to spray luminol. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. We drove the vehicle outside of the Sally Port to the back side of the jail where it was completely dark. Utilized a tarp to put over top of it so that we wouldn't have any street light or anything like that showing any light.
So it was nighttime when you guys went outside.
That's correct.
And then in addition to it being nighttime, you put a tarp on to make it even darker.
Correct.
And so when the luminol was sprayed, were you also under the tarp in order to see anything illuminate or glow blue?
For the, yes, to answer your question, yes, I was able to see it. And it wasn't like the tarp, we had it draped over, and where we were at, somebody would hold the corner so that we could see underneath. It's not like we were all just underneath the tarp up against the car.
Another thing you had mentioned was that in the back trunk that there was an open container of Armor All wipes.
That's correct.
Was that taken into evidence?
I don't know. I did not collect any evidence from the vehicle, so I can't say for certain if it was collected or not.
Interestingly enough, when you had filed or submitted your search warrant for the infotainment system, you said that you did not receive any information back. Now, did they decline to agree to the search warrant, or did they just say there was no information?
So the process of obtaining the, I'm going to call it the brains, if you will. No expert in infotainment center extractions. I had the FBI assisting me in that search warrant. And so they removed that computer component from the area of the stereo on the dash, and they took it with them for further examination and realized, well, I was later informed that there was no information that they were able to obtain.
Wonder how they did mine without
In your
removing it and
experience, I'm
taking
assuming you've
it.
had infotainment systems removed from vehicles before to gather
Right.
data.
I personally have not, but I've seen it happen.
At some point, you got information that maybe this white vehicle had gone to the Petro, which is right off of Buckhorn Road.
Well, I wouldn't say I got information on it. I think that when we have cases of this magnitude where 2 young kids were found shot to death in a rural part of the county, we start from main thoroughfares and work our way back to where gas stations are. If there's any cameras around the area on houses that we could obtain. The Petro.
Yeah, it's a
Buckhorn Road
pretty
is
big
very,
deal.
very heavily traveled
Even
road.
though half the
So
world, most of the world
pull
wants to
video from
pretend
what we
that this
believe-
shit doesn't matter.
to be pertinent timeframes.
Sorry.
Obviously, after
Still
searching the vehicle,
pissed,
seizing the vehicle, and seeing
obviously.
the vehicle on camera, lining it up with the
Yeah,
paint
there was
transfer
DNA
on the right front from where
everywhere.
we all saw the car hit the concrete post. I think that's why we would have done what we did.
So what you're saying is you would have gotten and requested surveillance video from all the businesses in that area, because there's more than just the Petro right there on Buckhorn. And you mentioned that you could see at that time frame of 2:11, I think 2:19, you could see the video pull in, and you could see the car kind of sitting there parked next to a gas
You
pump
could see the video
for
pull
second-
in.
30 seconds, maybe a minute or so.
Give or take.
And then eventually that vehicle tries to make a turn around into the next set of gas pumps and doesn't quite make it.
That's correct.
And
Hey, hoodies and a crowbar.
you could
Oh, thank you
surmise
for
that the
being
person who was
here.
driving this car was probably not an experienced driver. Would you say so?
I don't want to assume that Mr. Ross wasn't an experienced driver because I don't know him. I didn't know him at the time, so I can't say that he is or is not.
An experienced driver would have judged that turn a little bit better, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Thank you. And the interaction we see Mr. Ross going up to the teller, which looks like they're only doing it from outside.
Correct.
Eventually paying for gas and then leaving.
Correct.
From the video, there was no indication from looking at his clothing that there was any blood or any evidence that he had been involved in any type of assault. Is that correct?
It is, but I think it's also important, based off testimony from the medical examiner, that majority of the shots were from the back. So that appears that the 2 individuals that were discovered deceased were moving away from the shots and not coming forward to create that blowback of the blood coming onto whoever the shooter may have been.
But there wasn't any indication, at least from the medical examiner, that gave us any indication of how anything would have projected. Is that fair to say?
Projected from the victims?
That's correct, sir.
Yes.
Now, after you got a chance to view this video, and after you got a chance to take evidence from this vehicle, I think that's the 19th. The very next day is when you decided to take out charges on Mr. Ross. Is that correct?
20th, yes, sir.
20th. When you were involved in this investigation, did you yourself expand the search and look for things like Devin's cell phone?
I personally did not. I know that there were other investigators that walked street, Buckhorn Road, Yarborough Road, looking for items of evidence, and none were located.
And so there was, I don't know if you maybe sent out a task of things, investigator Villa look for this or someone else do that.
Well, he
Was
took the
anyone tasked
phone
with
and the
looking for
gun.
that?
I don't think he's gonna
It was a
just throw
culmination
it out.
of, hey, this is what we
Yeah.
have to do. This is what, correction, this is what needs to be done. Who wants to do what? All right, so it wasn't like, I'm going to tell you to do this or tell you to do that. This is what needs to be done. Put your name down and let's go.
Were you ever made aware of how wide the grid was, or how far they searched down Buckhorn Road or Yarborough Road to find any of these items?
I was not, but based off the evidence that I was able to review, I know that at some point, Devin's phone was at the crime scene and it was not there when we arrived.
And to your knowledge, no firearm has been recovered either.
That is correct.
And your understanding is that with the divvying of responsibilities, you didn't tell people what to do. Those things would have been responsibilities that people would know was necessary as part of this investigation, to look for cell phones, to look for bags, to look for a firearm.
Correct.
And none of those were uncovered up and along Buckhorn Road.
That is correct.
One moment, Judge.
Mr. Trout?
Mm.
Yes,
ma'am.
time just to take our afternoon recess. How's that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for our lunch recess.
Wait.
Please remember all the rules. Number one, y'all go to lunch together. That's no problem. But you can't talk about this case with each other. We're not at that point in the trial. Number two, remember you cannot talk to anybody.
I would say yes.
Okay.
I know
I know you're not
one of the shots.
Oh, they
each
cut
of
the
two
footage?
Hitting major arteries. I don't know. I don't recall which one.
Hold on. They cut the
On
footage.
the information from the autopsy, there were gunshots to the back of both individuals. You recall that?
Yes, sir.
But you recall from the testimony that was given to us here in court, and from the information you recovered or received from the autopsy, that there were shots to both of these individuals in the front. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And that,
Trying to make the point, it wasn't just to the back. Yeah, Devin had 2 shots to his back, 1 in the bottom of his foot and 1 in the back of his head, and 1 shot to the front of his thigh. Lyric had several shots in the back, 2 in her neck. The majority of the gunshots were to the back of them. You can frame it however you want, Jonathan Trapp. How is it so? Because you know what? You know that it's pretty fucking stupid to claim self-defense when they were shot running away. I mean, think about how a gunshot gets in the bottom of somebody's heel. Probably when their foot's like up mid-run. But also the multiple shots to the back and the back of the head. Come on,
several
man.
of those wounds to the front hit major arteries. Is that correct? Or do you recall?
No. Several of the shots to the back hit major arteries. Maybe one of the shots to the front did as well. But if you remember, Lyric, the most serious wound she had, the medical examiner said, was the shot to the back. It pierced a major artery and her liver and a lung. And the same with Devin. Stop. He's not the medical examiner. Why are you asking him? You cross-examined the medical examiner yesterday. Why didn't you ask her if the shots to the front hit major arteries? This is not his thing.
I would say yes.
Okay.
I know one of the shots in each of the 2 were hitting major arteries. I don't recall which ones were front to back in that situation.
And in fact, for Lyric,
See?
there were 2 shots that the medical examiner testified to that were at close range because they recognized stippling on the face. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so, knowing that
There were 3 shots of shell casings. It almost appears as if he was shooting at them and they were trying to get away. And once he knocked them down, he walked up to him and shot him from close up. Doesn't that make sense? Even think of what the fuck is that dad's name from Ohio, that piece of shit. Chad. He killed his 3 boys. They were just precious little babies, and one of them was running through a field, and the dad shot him from many feet away and then shot him from a little closer and then up close. Once he got close enough to him to make sure he killed him. That's what happens oftentimes. Jonathan Trapp, why are you asking the investigator about wounds and stuff that the medical examiner already testified to? You're gonna piss
And so
me
now
off,
knowing
you
that there
dirty,
were,
scuzzy little scammy. You know what? Defense attorney's got to do their job, but all along the way, he has proven that he is a scuzzy slime ball. He's trying to make points in the most scuzzy, scammy, slimy ways, and we won't forget it, Jonathan Trapp. I'm watching your ass. We're going to have to quit today before we get to the friend's testimony. That's what we'll start with tomorrow. I'll just change the title because there's a man that's going to testify that Isaiah told him everything and that him and Isaiah have even had sexual relations. They're close friends because the cop's like, are you guys like in a romantic relationship? It's just for him to tell you this. It seems like I would think you guys would be closer than just friends. Yeah, we've done it a couple of times. There's a guy that we'll hear from tomorrow. or maybe tonight. Maybe if I do have a chance to come on tonight, I'll talk about something else. And tomorrow we'll get back to this tomorrow day while the kids are at school, or tomorrow evening, if depending on what happens. I'll schedule it tonight though, so you guys know. Okay, here we
Wounds
go.
that were inflicted on these individuals in the front and at close range.
Yes.
There's still no
Tad
evidence of
Doerman.
these injuries on Mr. Ross's clothing.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Let me rewind that. Now that you know, after having the autopsy, that there were wounds to the front, but you still now look back on this video that we just watched from the petrol video, and you still didn't recognize any evidence of these injuries on that individual on that video. Is that correct?
Yeah, same.
Exactly, Pixie. If it's self-defense, you call police. And
We'll keep moving forward. I feel like you've answered it. I asked it the second time.
Jonathan
I
Trapp,
know
you've
that
asked the
sometime
same
later on this-
questions multiple times.
2.5 weeks later, Mr. Ross was arrested in Delaware. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And you were not present during that time.
That's correct.
And you were not given any information that Mr. Ross made any statements while he was in Delaware. Is that correct?
Exactly, Kim.
The only thing that the task force officer in Delaware informed me during the course of his arrest was that Mr. Ross indicated that his name was Jonathan Trapp.
So Mr. Ross gave you my name.
Correct.
Okay. Or gave the officer my name.
That's correct.
And after he was brought from Delaware to North Carolina, there were no statements or admissions from Mr. Ross to law enforcement. Is that correct?
What? When Isaiah was arrested, he said his name was Jonathan Trapp? The fuck? Now we're about done. Here's the friend that's gonna tell us. Let me look for something real quick. I might have a clip I can give you a preview of what we'll get into tomorrow. We'll try to catch up and be real time by the end of the weekend. Isaiah gave Jonathan Trapp's name.
Thank you.
Do you want to continue with your line of questioning?
No, Judge. Defense rest.
Ms. Orr, it's time to really use your turn.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Defense rest.
Just a few follow-up questions. Sergeant Goodwin, on cross-examination, Mr. Trapp asked you about the camo bag and pink sweatshirt recovered from Mr. Bryant's vehicle.
Correct.
Are you the one who recovered those items?
I am.
And did you have an opportunity to, or strike that, what, if anything, did you do with those items?
Once they were collected, I was able to show photos of the items to the families to confirm if they belong to Devin and or Lyric. And both families stated that none of the items that I collected from Mr. Bryant's vehicle that was left behind by Mr. Ross were their kids.
And I want to jump back to the search warrant related to the white GMC Terrain.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an opportunity to examine the exterior and the interior of that vehicle?
I did.
And did you see any damage other than what you've already described on the front bumper?
I did not see any other damage on the interior or the exterior of the vehicle.
Did you see anything that would be consistent with a gunshot on the interior or the exterior of the vehicle?
I did not.
Oh, yeah. I
Um,
got a little preview here in a news clip.
Over the break, were you able to determine when you received the Snapchat return?
Yes, I was.
And when was that?
December 1st of 2022.
God, the sound is bad sometimes.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any reason-
Okay.
Nothing further, Judge.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. Sit down.
Okay, so this is where we'll pick up tomorrow. It goes straight into Sykes. But I found a clip that will give you guys a good preview of what we have to look forward to. Here we go.
Although at 6 we could hear from
Because this is very interesting. And then we'll go back to the dude that has the DNA, all the forensics, this fella here. Okay. So we'll go to catch up with the friend and then jump back to where we left off here. So I'm going to keep my place right there and right there and both of those. And let's come over to this little news clip.
The man accused
Check
of
this
shooting
out.
and killing 2 teenagers in Orange County as early as tomorrow.
The defense says the only witness on their list is Isaiah Ross. That means he could take the stand in his own defense.
Ross is accused of gunning down 14-year-old Lyric Woods and 18-year-old Devin Clark in 2022. Today, one of Ross's former friends took the stand, and CBS 17's Ben Boken was there in the courtroom where he claims that Ross confessed to those killings.
Christian Sykes told the court that the alleged killer admitted to shooting 14-year-old Lyric Woods and 18-year-old Devin Clark while they were all in the same car together. The prosecution played a recording from
I don't see how it could have happened in the car though, because they used all the luminol and stuff. It just doesn't, his story doesn't add up that he told his friends. But listen.
a body cam when Sykes met with an investigator. The witness says the night of the crime, Ross picked up another man and they were going to pick up a girl and go have sex. Ross allegedly told the witness that Clark pointed a gun at Ross and the two wrestled with the gun and the gun went off. The witness says Ross then admitted to shooting Lyric Woods before dumping the bodies.
It's just like you're saying all of this, but you're like laughing and smiling. I feel like if you just did something like that, you got to be a real sick individual to just be laughing and carrying on and smiling. And they was wrestling for the gun, and he said that the boy was shooting the gun as like they was wrestling. Like he said, it shot like 2 times, and then he got the gun, shot him, and then turned around and shot the girl because she saw everything.
Sykes
There would also be evidence of that in the car. Well, don't you think a bullet would be lodged somewhere in that vehicle if this all happened inside? They're wrestling for the gun. Devin's shooting it and it's going off but doesn't hit anyone. Then Isaiah gets it and kills them both. No, the evidence doesn't support that.
also says on the recording that the two bodies were found shortly after he talked with Ross. He asked Ross where he was, and the alleged killer said his cousin was getting him a ticket to New York. Sykes also said to the investigator that he was in a relationship beyond friendship with Ross. He detailed they did some things, signaling a sexual relationship. We also heard a very graphic testimony from an Orange County investigator who says that he went through Snapchat messages from Woods and Clark that detailed
Of testimony in the trial of a man accused of killing Devin Clark and Lyric Woods in Orange County. The prosecution continues to make their case today. They called a witness who described a conversation
He shared via a Snapchat video call.
Because honestly and truthfully, I didn't believe it. It just sounded crazy.
Christian Sykes testified in Orange County Court, recalling a conversation with Isaiah Ross over video. Sykes says Ross told him he had killed Devin Clark and Lyric Woods. He testified that Ross explained Clark was playing with a gun, pointing its beam at him.
And he told him to stop. And he said the third time he went for the gun, they wrestled for the gun. And I don't remember exactly if he said the gun went off, but I do know he said that he shot them and dumped the bodies.
The prosecutor also played a 2022 recording of Sykes speaking with law enforcement when he first told them about Ross.
He I guess got the gun from him, and then he said he shot him. And then he said that the white girl, well, he didn't say white girl, but he said the girl that was in the back seat, he said she saw everything, so I turned around and I shot her.
Prosecutors also showed surveillance video of Ross driving a white car.
That story it's not supported by the evidence. Sorry, not sorry. Don't believe it. I do believe he, probably told the story to the fella because he, like I said, he goes to police the day after the kids are found. So he didn't wait around. Soon he said that he would have went sooner, but he didn't believe him. But then when he heard the news that these two bodies were found, these two kids, he was like, oh God, is he telling the truth? So let me catch up with a couple comments and then I'm going to let you guys go for now. We've been here for almost 4 hours. I should have probably started earlier. There's so much to get through, but it is what it is. I'm trying to keep up with my housework and everything else too. Tess says, thank you so much for streaming this today, Allie. Thank you for being here. I did see Chasing put up a video about Lyric and Devin's case. You guys should check it out. I'll share her link. I shared it on my community tab, actually, if you guys want to check it out. They do look like all American kids. It's part of my issue with, just the fact that why does nobody care? Why is there nobody watching and paying attention, even if they didn't look like, even if they looked like, no matter how they looked, regardless, these are two kids with their whole lives in front of them that were killed by another kid. You know, I just don't understand why it hasn't gotten more publicity, and it's really frustrating because they matter just as much as the kids from Idaho 4 case. You know, they matter too. I'm glad they got all the publicity they got. Sincerely glad, truly. But I get mad when I see that other cases, you know, and just don't get that kind of attention or support. The amount of support the families in the Idaho 4 case have gotten financially and everything, it's been huge. Then you have, you know, it feels like they're forgotten about. I just don't like it. I'm going to leave us here with their memorials. This is a picture I took when I was there. If you missed me showing the pictures of the scene and everything, definitely go back because it will help you. Like, I'm terrible with maps and directions and all that kind of stuff, but like I need to visually see stuff. It really helps me like kind of figure out where I'm at. I agree. I would think they would find gunshot residue in the car and a lot more blood. Most likely this idiot pulled the gun in the car. The two exited to get away, just a thought, and started running. I could definitely see that, especially if they're parked up here on this road. Let me show you because I think I just, look. No, wait, that's not it. Let me get a good view of it. Me and my memory dress. Especially if they're parked up here. You can see the cross here. I'm circling the cross. This is the main road. It seems like they just pulled off the side of the road on this little back road. I'm showing the pictures now anyway, but not going to go through them as slow. I just want to find this one angle of this where you guys can really see. See? Here we can see this is the main road. So it's like a little dirt road that turns into a four-wheeler trail. So is it possible they pulled off on the side of the road? They were doing whatever they were doing, talking, whatever. Maybe he didn't get what he was promised. It looks like they... you know, Lyric and Devin had each other's DNA on them, not necessarily bodily fluids, could be skin cells, anything, just their DNA. In those SA kits, like in the clothing swabs and stuff, the underwear swabs, Isaiah's was nowhere to be found. It was excluded. Was he mad? I don't know. I don't know what happened, but anyways, you're right. It makes no sense no matter how you look at it. But regardless is the way I see it. They lived through this. The least we can do is learn about it. Tell their story. Talk about them. Talk about, you know, hope that they get justice and he pays for what he's done. And yeah, also, hopefully, you know, it doesn't happen to anyone else's kids. But I appreciate you guys being here. While I did go over it, I agree. It just took my breath away. They look like they could be my kids or your kids. They are someone's kids. I see Prom King and Queen. Pixie, I agree with you 1,000%. I have said this a couple times, but I look at them and I see my son. My son is 17. You know? And it's just, why the fuck is Court TV? See, I'm going to talk through my teeth. I am fucking mad over this. And the longer it goes, the more mad I get. Why in the hell have Court TV and Law and Crime why are they not streaming this or talking about this? They talk about everything else. Hell, like I said the other day, they want to talk about hidden true crimes bullshit. Look at these kids. Okay, I've had enough emotions over this, like, and enough freakouts. I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm already getting teary-eyed again. I'm just really mad. And I'm like that kind of mad where you like crying mad. So. All right. Good, Hope's Echo. I'm glad you got some stuff done. Thank you, Kim. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys. He is a public defender. He also has his own law firm, it looks like. Lyric's DNA was all over the vehicle. She probably panicked and tried to hide, crying in frustration. Absolutely. So anyways, look at these kids, man. Damn. It's freaking sad. But thank you for being here and listening to me as I try to dig through and go through the facts and tell the story and try to make sure it's told at least on my little channel. Hell, again, like I said yesterday, I know that my channel is small. It's not going to make a huge difference, especially on something that nobody cares to listen to or learn about. And that's fucking frustrating. But not nobody. Some of you care and I care. We care. But it would definitely be a lot better if there were big places like Law and Crime Court TV telling the story. But regardless, the story is going to be told. So we're going to make damn sure of that. I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.